Today, my guest is BigPasti. BigPasti is relatively new to board game YouTube, but he has burst onto the scene. Nearly every single video is board game viral. His style of video is so unique. His takes are often spicy, and that's exactly what we get into today. In fact, we talk about over 20 of the spiciest hot takes on all of board game YouTube.
I play Castle of Burgundy on BGA with my friends, and at the end of the day, like we're all like, have a couple hundred points. And I'm like, I felt nothing. Like I felt no joy, no anger, nothing. I'd rather feel complete and utter misery. Secret Hitler to me is essentially social deduction at its most baby. It's a baby game. Here's product after product after product, and it's like Funko Pops. It's like you're collecting Funko Pops with your goddamn board games. I'm like, I don't want to collect any more Funko Pops for this fucking board game, Earth to me is like the ultimate feel-good game. Like, you are going to find success in Earth no matter what you do.
We also talk about the secrets to his success.
You can't be afraid to say something that's going to make people mad.
And we talk about his newest project, which is Sunlit Eulogy, a game coming to Game Found very, very soon.
I have absolutely no interest in pleasing the average consumer. It's not going to be a game that you're going to be able to play with your grandpa and your whole family around the table after a nice Christmas dinner. You're not going to play it.
This conversation was unhinged in all of the best ways. Unlike any other conversation that I've had on this channel.
Phil Eklund is a fucking idiot for some of his political beliefs, but he's a fucking genius when it comes to game design.
BigPasti is quite the character, and I think if you stick around, you're going to really enjoy every wild thing he has to say.
Hate comments can go below, it's fine.
And with all of that said, let's welcome BigPasti himself to the Board Game Secret Show.
Give me a new hot take. I'm ready. Yeah, let's. So, what are your thoughts before we, actually get going? Because I don't really have anything. Oh, we're in it. We're already live. Oh, okay. Fantastic.
We just, I just find a good place to cut in and just go after it. It's not particularly formal. I have your list that you gave me is incorporated into spicy takes that I had Claude put in order of least to most spicy. So we'll see exactly how it actually comes out.
No, that's fantastic. I love to hear it.
Oh, perfect. We're gonna let the AI gods guide our conversation just a little bit. The thing I do want to kind of get from you is get to know you a little bit more, and then we'll kind of go into your crowdfunding campaign, and then we're gonna hopefully, maybe this is gonna be like a 200,000 view hitter of just the internet's most spicy takes. I don't know. We'll see.
One of the things that I'm sure people don't realize is I don't actually have a filter. So I kind of match whatever. If you start to swear, I'm going to start to swear.
Oh, you can swear. Whatever.
Oh, you're cool with it? Okay.
Yeah,
You'll have to start though. That's the thing.
Shit.
But then, fuck.
Okay.
But once it starts going, I don't really stop. And I edit myself down a lot in after the video is done. Because there's a lot of it is scripted, but a lot of it is just me rambling. And I'm like, oh God, nobody wants to hear that. That sounds horrible. That's gonna be a terrible opinion. So I'm sure if you want to clip farm, this will be the interview. I guarantee it almost actually.
That's so good. I try to bait everyone into as many viral clips as possible, but people have stayed pretty good. Board Game Bullocks has been the most successful so far, with throwing some spicy takes out there and getting hate in the comments. So hopefully, I guess my goal for you is to eclipse the number of hate comments that Board Game Bullocks got.
Oh yeah, and, I'm sure we'll come up with something. Do you want me to do an introduction? Would that be fair?
You're more than welcome to. I also do a kind of an intro that'll cut in before this, after the discussion, kind of giving a little bit of an intro. But for the people that don't know BigPasti, give us a quick rundown.
Hello, I am BigPasti. I'm a small board game YouTuber. When it comes to how we started and how I started, essentially during COVID, we didn't have anything to do. So we were like, okay, let's spend time together. Let's play some board games. And I've played, throughout my whole life. I kind of know a little bit about everything, from 20 years ago, Dominion, Catan, the classics. But then one of my buddies got Dune Imperium, and that was the one that kind of rekindled my love into it. So from 6 years ago, give or take. And then ever since Dune Imperium came along, I just started gobbling it up, TI4, Arcs, Root, a lot of those competitive games. That's kind of I would say my forte and what I enjoy and what I specialize in. But the YouTube thing was just like I had a couple weekends off and I was like, I need to find something to do, something enjoyable. So I just pulled up my old camera, got recording just in front of some content, and all of a sudden, like, 20,000 views, 10,000 views, and it just kind of snowballed from there. Um, it's not really a profitable endeavor, I would say. We make about $7.15 Canadian per thousand views. So you can easily do the math. It's roughly about $1,000 Canadian per month. So it is by no means a profitable venture, but it's kind of I would say, hobbyist in me trying to convey interesting ideas without any kind of monetary pressure is the idea behind BigPasti.
Well, it's interesting you say 1,000. That is way more than the vast majority of board game YouTubers, and you have cracked the code relatively quickly. And I was curious about what your perception is of your relative success. Granted, 20K subscribers in basically any other part of YouTube is minuscule, but it's giant in a short period of time in board game YouTube space. What do you attribute that meteoric rise to?
When it comes to the kind of like the rise and the success in like big quotations, is essentially that you can't be afraid to like say something that's going to make people mad, and like you can't really say uh, you can't hide yourself from the camera. People can tell, when you're genuine and when you're not. And like I find that people want to see things that they haven't heard elsewhere, and they want to be met at where they are. You can't, it's possible for me to go more academic with my language and say things that maybe are more specialized and more niche in appeal. Um, but I want to try to take those ideas and kind of broaden them to a general public in novel ways. And I would say that was kind of my strength in the initial idea.
So, but like, I mean, your very first video just went crazy. And do you think it is hot takes? Do you think it's just, I don't know. I look at your content as more of, I don't know, think pieces on board games. Certainly you've done some kind of some reviews, but it seems like, and this is why I called you one of my favorite creators, a super fresh take on what else is out there. Did you see a different, or did you see a void on content that you wanted to see and you started to make the stuff that you wanted to see, or how did that
Yeah,
happen?
I would say like I've never made a video that I didn't want to make, is how I would kind of phrase it. It was
Mm.
always something that I was interested in and something that I found kind of captivating in its own way. Um, but I think like a lot of the problems I find with maybe smaller channels or more niche channels is that the language and the general kind of cadence and demeanor is very kind of, I would say, specialized in language. There's a guy, I think his name is Cardboard Crash Course, and he specializes in TI4, and he is like undoubtedly the best at TI4. But when you see him try to kind of branch into other things, it's like he can only kind of convey that TI4 knowledge. And for me, it was like I want to have that specialty knowledge, but I want to kind of frame it in a way that normal, everyday folk can kind of engage with in a kind of detailed level. So things like, everyone knows about complexity and asymmetry and depth and kind of, those concepts are known in your consciousness, whether you acknowledge them or not. So to have an open area where people can like hear about it and discuss in the comments, I find that incredibly captivating for like the general public. And I would say that's kind of the niche I'm going for. It's like people who are hobbyists but not fully engaged in a specific community.
Do you,
And like I Oh, sorry, go
no,
ahead.
go ahead. No, have at it.
I would say like, when you really go down into the nitty gritty of YouTube, um, people don't want to be like, people don't want to feel lectured towards. So I find like a big part of it is like you want to be able to convey thoughts and feelings and emotions in a human way that's more conversational and more almost like an exploration of an idea. Like you yourself are discovering things rather than just trying to convince people of a belief that you have. And one of the things that's kind of like I would say a common motif in my videos is that like I'm a firm believer of holding ideas lightly. Like I am willing to be convinced of practically anything if I hear the right argument, and
Yeah.
it's because myself as an individual, like I've changed my mind 1,000 times in the past 10 years, and I'm going to change my mind another 1,000 times in the next 10 years. And to kind of uh, give an open exploration to viewers is really kind of the idea behind a lot of my videos.
I mean, YouTube isn't typically the space where idea exploration and open mindedness are rewarded. How have you felt like the audience at large has responded via comments? I mean, obviously, you've gotten a ton of subscribers in a short amount of time, but do you have a lot of detractors sitting there, kind of fighting
I,
with you there?
I love every negative comment I get. Like,
Mm.
I don't read all my comments. That's the first thing. Like, I find that kind of unhealthy to begin with. But when I see my YouTube studio and there's a highlight comment and it's negative, I'm like, I press not the heart button, but like the thumbs up, and I'm like, yeah, go for it, dude. Like, I want you to completely disagree with me.
Yeah,
I've never shadow banned anyone on my YouTube comments unless they've said something like outwardly offensive. And 90% of the time, it's not even directed towards me. It's just, a slur or something that doesn't really need to be on a board game channel,
right.
or any channel for that matter. But I would just say, like, I don't, if someone's like, you're an idiot and like, this is why XYZ, I'm like, please put that in writing, write a full essay. I will read it. I probably won't respond to it, but at least I'll think about it. So like, I don't really feel like negativity is like 99% of it isn't directed towards me as an individual, but more to my ideas. And I welcome that. That's like totally cool with me.
Yeah. Have you ever had your mind changed by a comment, or at least, led down a new way of thinking about something?
Yeah, I would say a lot of the conversation about like, um, people would say like, okay, I put Dune 1979 as like the most complex and deep game out there. But,
Mm.
I know it's not. It's not like necessarily the most difficult thing to ever understand. And people will say, oh, war games are so much more complicated and, this game or that game. And then I try to play a war game and I'm like, holy shit, this thing is impossible. Like, I can't play this, like this isn't made for my brain. And I agree with them. But I would say like, everything I talk about is kind of framed in a narrow worldview of like, this is a normal hobbyist board gamer, what they might encounter. And I think like, my information isn't perfect, my conclusions aren't perfect, and like, I would say, there's not really anything that I like in a video where I'll be like, yes, 100% that has to be right. And leave a comment below and I'll read them, and we can talk about it in another video.
Yeah. No, I mean, I do like the way that you frame your arguments, and it is kind of the video is a journey, and you are kind of exploring the idea along with the audience. I think that's a really smart way to go about it for sure. Um, did you start like playing? You said in pandemic, so was your like hobbyist kind of board gaming career really start in 2020?
Yeah, I got my Calyx in 2020, like
Okay,
that's when I kind of
that's
was
it.
like, let's
That's how
rock
you
and
know
roll,
you're in.
like, yeah,
I
yeah,
like
because
that.
like that's like, I'm like, oh shit, like here I am, like I need a space for this now. Um, so like I would say that's when it like,
Did
I
you
you
get the
get your street credit
four
moment.
column or the two column first?
Shit, it's right here. It's one, two. It's a 4x4.
I
um,
don't know why I find that so incredibly funny that that's your answer, but yeah, okay.
I would say like, that's one of the unifiers of all of us, like we all
Yeah.
have a calyx and we all like respect that as a, like, if you walk into someone's home and you see a calyx, you're like, bro, I know what you're up to.
Yeah. What if I
Yeah.
have them jammed in calyxes, in drawers, in my garage, in bags, in boxes? Like what does that say?
I would say that's unhealthy actually.
Yeah,
I would say like,
for
you
sure.
yeah, like I hate to say, like, I don't buy many games. Like,
Yeah.
like I don't accept games from publishers, period. Like I've never received one for free. So the games I buy tend to be games I like. And games I don't like, I like to kind of cycle through or at least get rid of somehow. Um, but I would never go beyond maybe two calyxes 4x4, I think. I hope, that's a reasonable level.
Very interesting. What's behind the never accepting a game?
Yeah, so one of the things that I would say beyond just the hobby, but like, I would say, okay, hate comments can go below. It's fine. Um, but like to live an ethical life is like, everyone wants us to do that. No one would say living an ethical life is bad. Um, but then you have your ideal self. And I would say like unambiguously, it's better to be vegan than to not. Like, if someone was up to me and was like, I'm vegan, I would say, yeah, you're probably living a more ethical life than I am. And I'm not a vegan, of course. I would say if I am, but I would say like that means that that person who has the more ethical life and myself, we have like a difference. And I think the like term people use is called acrasia, but all it means is that you have the ideal self and then you have your current self and you want to live to the ideal, but you choose not to for whatever convenience or reason that I don't fully understand. Um, and I would say when I started this channel, I was like, okay, what's the ideal channel? Who's the person who would be the most ethical in the YouTube world? And I would say that's a person who's transparent with their revenue sources, transparent with sponsorships, transparent with what they like and don't like. And I would also say someone who is like they don't have a conflict of interest. Period. It's not only the conflict of interest is disclosed, but it doesn't exist at all. And that was kind of like the idea behind it. I was like, I don't want to do this for the money, and I don't want to do this for any clout, and I don't want to do this because I think it's a good use of my time. I just want to do it because I find it enjoyable.
Do you have any contacts at publishers or designers? Do you have any sort of contact at all with anyone in the industry?
Yeah, I hate that I can't say it, but I don't remember his name. But the guy who made Origin Story reached out to me, and he was like, "Hey, great video. Thanks for covering it. By the way, if you ever need help, contact me." And of course, I want to be friendly towards everyone, and I respect him as an individual. I can't remember his name. I'm sorry, dude.
Did
Um,
Jamie Stegmeyer design
no,
that
no,
or
no.
just publish it?
No, he just published it. There was
Oh,
another
okay.
gentleman who runs a podcast. It escapes me right now. But him and I, we talked for a little bit over email. And of course, I think it's necessary to be friendly to everyone. Like, I want to be amiable. I don't want to, shit talk anyone at all ever in this industry. Um, but I don't think it's necessarily beneficial or even ethical to be friends with everyone. Um, and the reason for that is you do have loyalty to friends, and in a way those loyalties can intersect with your audience, and I don't want to cause that tension.
Why do you feel like you owe so much to your audience to not even have friends in the industry?
Yeah, I would say it's like why would I purposely have to choose between two different individuals, the audience and the actual person I know in real life? And I would say that the audience is kind of my priority, no matter what. And especially designing a game, like my loyalty are to the people who actually spend money on it, and my loyalty are for people who actually watch my channel. That's where my loyalties lie above all. And I've seen, I'm not like super tuned in, but I know there was that issue with Alex and Game Co. and Quackalope. There was the issue with Rodney and one of his uh,
Uh,
employees, I suppose. And I'm saying like, I don't ever want to be put in that situation where I have to choose loyalty of my audience and my friend. And I hate, maybe I don't hate to say this, but I have a lot of friends in real life who I'm more than happy to, play games with and encounter with. And it's not to say I won't play games or communicate friendly with people virtually. But I don't want to ever say like this person is someone I have a loyalty towards, because I want to prioritize the audience.
That's so interesting. I mean, I will absolutely commend you because I think the only way to actually be unbiased is doing exactly what you do. I think that's incredibly hard to do, especially as you start to get at a certain level and you have people contacting you. Do you go to conventions at all?
Yeah, I've been invited, but I politely declined. I have gone before I started YouTube to a local one here, but I've never been to one, like after I started my channel.
So do you? So okay. So now you want to, or you are designing and publishing yourself as well.
Yeah, yep. It's a religious game, and I didn't want to have any caveats about what could or could not be put inside, so I intentionally decided to do it all on my own, with my team, of course, my artist and my co-designer. But we're doing it all solo. Yeah.
Are there? is there anything in the back of your head that says this thing might have a better chance if I build relationships throughout the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say there's no question that there's a better chance. But a part of me is like, if someone, okay, I'll sidetrack for a moment. If
Please do.
someone from the industry was like, yeah, if someone from the industry was like, hey, can we play test? Can I get a copy? Just for the sake of helping you out. Absolutely no problem. Um, but I kind of I thought about this as I was producing it, but I was like, there's absolutely no way that I will ever give a copy for free for a review purpose, or would I ever give a copy for promotional content? And it's just something
Wow.
that yeah, I wouldn't do it.
Wow.
I don't make that content on my YouTube channel, and I find it hypocritical if I was to
It's
suddenly
just
go
a
back on
different
that.
world though. Like you're straddling this crazy line between, I mean, I wouldn't put you with really any other category of content creator. I think you're totally doing something different. But I've been talking to a lot of publishers and designers, and this, like, the art of marketing is so important for these projects to live and die by. And you might be the one to be able to do it, but I would say 99.9% of people with the same strategy will fail almost
Yeah,
every
I
time.
have I mean, obviously, my channel is a big advocate of the market in itself. Um, I would say that obviously we're doing testing on Reddit and Meta ads right now. Actually, $20 a day for both of them, just to see what kind of leads through the click through rates.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't think it's like I don't find. Look, I don't mean like I'm not standing on any high horse. I think everyone operates within their own means of morality, and everyone is free to operate in that way. If someone receives games from a publisher and reviews them, I'm perfectly fine with that because that's their perception of what's okay. And in a way, I actually think that's a perfectly reasonable way to live and operate your business. Recently, I don't want to I do remember, but I don't want to provide too many details, but someone was getting flack for selling games after they review them.
A lot of
And
people
I
do.
was like, yeah, and I was like, I actually don't care. I really don't care. I don't give a shit if this guy reviews a game from a publisher and then sells it. Um, if that's what they see as kind of morally acceptable, and as long as they can say, this is why, this is the amount of money we make, I don't see a problem with that. Um, Other people receive games from publishers, and do I have the moral high ground to say, well, you're not allowed to do that because of XYZ reason? I don't think that's fair. I think everyone operates within their own capabilities. Um, and I also have the benefit that I don't do any of this for profit at all, period. Like it's not a business to me. Of course, I want to make money. Money is great. Who doesn't want to have more money? But I don't see the point of actually uh, uh, going through these ethical dilemmas for an extra, what, maybe $100 a month. It's like, what's the point of that? Um, with regards to the Kickstarter, or I should say GameFound campaign, my amount of money that I expect to get from it is maybe 25,000. Maybe 25,000 is enough to pay for production and the rest of the art that needs to be done. The design is entirely done in house, and all of my playtesters are volunteers. So at the end of the day, like 25,000 is enough to kind of get everything operating.
So when you go and start your campaign, you're going to have no previews done. So nobody will have a copy of it, or are you sending out preview prototypes?
No, the well, we have a print and play that's being sent privately to playtesters who have shown interest in, that we're interested in working with. But when it comes to actually um, sending it off to, I don't know, random channel XYZ, I have no interest in doing that. I just don't see that kind of relationship as something that I would say is without fault, and why would I put myself through a situation where I have to deal with moral ambiguity for the sake of maybe 500, maybe 5,000 views and, maybe 20 purchases? It's not worth the equation, doesn't math for me.
Well, so what if I were to say I could snap my fingers? You do have to send out copies to all of the biggest creators, and it's going to amass $500,000 in funding. Would you do that?
No, it isn't my belief to I think
Wow.
think anything like that is just and I'm saying it, this is a hypothetical, right? But if shut up shit oh my god, shut up, sit down, contact me going like, hey, we can do it no cost, get an easy 100,000 views, that's like, algorithmic magic. I would still say no, just because I think that's the wrong way to do it. Um, but I'm fortunate in the sense that I don't expect this to be a profitable endeavor. Like, it's not going to make me money, and that's fine. I'm doing it for the love of the game, not for the love of money.
Do you think this perspective it does have and kind of this operating model that you're working with has the potential to do the opposite of what I'm saying and completely blow up because of the integrity that you're using to kind of manage yourself throughout this process?
No, I don't think anyone cares that I'm
Yeah.
doing it this way or not.
Oh,
I
I think
think
they
the
do.
standard.
Oh, for sure they would.
Uh,
Oh yeah.
I think the day-to-day operation is, send as many review copies or prototypes to as many people who are willing to cover it, pay them or not, depending on the contract. And I think that's the standard accepted practice. It's the same as someone saying, I eat a hamburger for dinner every night. It's that accepted practice. But my ideal self is saying, no, I don't want to be engaged in that ambiguity. And for me, I when I review a game, I buy it and I have no loyalty to the person who I'm reviewing. If I like the game, that's great. If I don't like the game, it's fine. I don't feel any connection to them as an individual, um, or as a publisher. And it's just me as a normal human individual, without any kind of concern about my future, I would say.
Yeah, I mean 100%. I think you are the model that is that probably won't be duplicated ever. I mean, unless certainly at your level. Like I think there's probably plenty of channels that are forced into not having the relationships and review copies and such just because they're so small. But I find it so interesting with how fast that you've grown and the number of opportunities that just naturally would be there, especially like outside of reviewing games, like especially related to your project. Like I just find it so fascinating that it's literally the goal is just to get it out there, not to necessarily sell units.
Yeah, I think when it comes to like the monetary side of things, success is fantastic, right? Like I want success to, further create interesting ideas. But I care more about the interesting ideas than I do about the success. Um, so like I have no reason to kind of uh, put myself through a rigmarole of kind of pleasing these content creators or publishers or other people involved in my life, and then say my success is based off whether or not I appease you. I'd much rather just find success organically by saying, this is what I can offer. We haven't made any sacrifices in our vision. Whether you like it or not, that's fine. But if one person out of 100 likes it or loves it, that's the goal. Like I don't really care what anyone else really. It's like when I play a game and I'm like, this game is made for the broadest audience humanly possible, and I'm like, it is so beige and so meaningless to me as an individual that ultimately this game was made for no one. And like that's my fear, that's my biggest fear. I'd much rather make something where like it's like this thing is so weird and so out there and so full of like these ideas that maybe don't mesh perfectly into this perfect system of comfortableness, but at least I'm fully engaged with it from like I can't get my mind off of it when I sleep. That's what I want to do, and like I'm not going to make money off this. I'm fine with that. The money is like irrelevant to the goal. There is no goal that is money in this, like why should I worry if I'm going to make 25,000 or if I'm going to make 50,000? Like at the end of the day, 25,000 is likely all I need.
What's your ultimate goal in the hobby? Like, is it to design board games? Is it to continue these video essays that you're doing? Like what is driving you? What's your why, I should say?
Yeah, I like when I go to sleep at night, I have like my phone next to me, and like in the middle of the night I wake up at 4 a.m. and go like, holy shit, that's such a good idea, and then I write it down, and then next morning I go through my list of ideas and I'm like, I need to get these out there, like I need someone to hear about this, you know. um but there's no like I work a normal job, you know, like I have like a normal 9 to 5 that I lean back on, so like this is purely for like exploration and interest, and like, you know, just finding out like where my mind leads me and where you guys can like kind of direct my ideas in the comments. That's really all it is. There like, I know people want to make money off games, but there's no money to be made except for that like extra deluxe 1% that I don't expect to find success in anytime soon.
Is there anything wrong with trying to be that top 1% and be the person
Oh
that
no,
cracks the code and make the
God,
money?
no, God, no. Like if you are making money, like you are doing something right, whether that's, you know, mass market appeal or, you know, specific niches. If you are making money, I am like thrilled for you. Like that is great. But like when you look at games releasing per year, there's like 10,000 games, and maybe I see like maybe 100 of those, you know, like I interact with maybe 100, 150 of them that I actually sit down and can play. And I'm like, uh, where's the rest of the 9,850 games? You know, like where are they? Where do they exist? They exist in this ether of maybe like 30 people who receive a copy and have some kind of interest in it. And like, there's nothing wrong with that either. Like someone had an idea and they want to get it out there, but like it's the same with YouTube. Like the YouTube algorithm feeds only like, you know, maybe 20 channels, you know, to the general population, and then there's like 2,000 channels that are like struggling to get over 500 views. And it's like, of course you want to be one of the higher channels. You know, success leads to more opportunities and more engagement with an interesting community, but it doesn't mean that your content is valuable if you're only getting 500 views. And if you're getting, you know, $500,000 in your first game found campaign, fantastic. But if you get $50,000, like your idea can still be equally valuable.
So there's so many like little rabbit trails we could go down right now, but a lot of them are actually in these hot takes a little bit further. So I want to get to those. I'm going to pause. I'm going to like try to stop myself, but we're at like a natural transition. You've kind of talked about the morals and ethics around you designing Sunlit Eulogy, but I need to know, what is this game that you are going to
Yep.
make successful? Give me the elevator pitch.
So, well, one of the things about me and kind of the team behind, or I would say, I mean, it is ultimately my idea. But whenever a religious prophet dies, or at least in recent mainstream religion of the Western world, the Abrahamic faiths, it's not that religion is decided at that moment. When the Prophet Muhammad died, when Jesus died, you know, the Quran and the Bible, they weren't written by those individuals. They were always communicated and kind of transcribed over the years. Some people for Islam will say 20 years, some people will say 200 years. But that time frame of actually writing down a faith and deciding what that faith is a central area of conflict, both through thought and through interaction with believers. So there has to be this tension in this gap period from when someone has passed away, when a prophet dies, and the faith has concluded, up until the point where it's actually a physical tome of instructions and guidance that will essentially exist for eternity. So Sunlit's eulogy is about that phase. It's about when someone passes away, there's all of these competing ideas and ideologies that are trying to enforce and become permanent within this kind of final tome. And we thought it would be interesting if that actual kind of textual scripture was the eulogy of the prophet themselves. Um, so throughout the game, what we're doing is it's a different belief systems essentially competing against each other. One of them is more focused on monetary policy. One of them is more about the family structure. Another is about healing, and another is about, you know, the actual attraction of people to faith. And they're all trying to compete with their belief systems to create that actual scripture that will last for eternity. It's actually a semi-cooperative game because the goal of the game is to make a faith that actually lasts for thousands of years. But you're competing with each other to be the one sect that actually decides what that faith looks like.
Is this a fictional Not currently
100
existing faith that you're building, or are you basing this off of?
100% fictional.
Okay.
100% fictional, but I would say highly inspired by, Islam and, Christianity would be the 2. I mean, those are the
So
religions I'm familiar with, you
I'm
know?
guessing these competing perspectives are essentially asymmetric factions.
Exactly. That's the idea. It's essentially, an asymmetric area of control, worker placement, with a little bit of hidden teams.
Very interesting. Okay, so what is the big hook? Like, what's the thing that's going to keep people coming back?
Yeah, I would say the actual kind of gameplay core is essentially mutual conveniences. So you're supposed to work with your fellow believer. You're supposed to work with someone who actually agrees with you that this is the faith that needs to exist permanently, but you don't want to actually trust them to actually fulfill what their promise is because they have self interest in mind. So the way I would say it is that the game is essentially a tension between uh, uh, a diplomacy and agreements between people and selfishness. Uh, so it's kind of trying to balance those 2 sides. Where
So are you?
essentially, you know. Oh, go ahead.
No, no, no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's essentially, I might agree with you deep down inside. I might fully agree with your belief and, I want this to succeed, but I want my personal belief system to be the dominant one.
Is this inspired by what is essentially a game of telephone, as we kind of translate
You know,
these documents over the years? Is there a deeper um, idea that you're trying to convey?
yeah, I would say it's more just like a faith is made by people who had the power to influence the faith. It's not actually made by the individual prophet or the center messiah figure. Um, so when you say like, uh, I'll give an example. Why do Muslim women wear the hijab? Because in some kind of historical fashion, it was decided by some individual that they should wear that hijab. So for that reason, there's hadith, there's scripture, there's a logical thread line saying that this is the exact reason why this human behavior exists, and this is something part of the faith. And I would say like we want to find that individual who actually makes that decision, and then gamify it into this kind of scriptural dance with other competing beliefs and find out which one is the dominant one at the end.
Are you worried? So in many religions, the holy texts are thought of from believers as being the true word of God, not necessarily decisions that were made by a religious people through the years to write down the particular text. Are you at all worried about pushback relative to the core premise?
Yeah, I mean, like, when you go history 101, like, there's the first council of Nicaea, I believe, where essentially a bunch of people sat down and were like, this is what the faith is going to look like. Like, this is what it is. Do I care about pushback? Not really, like it's a fictional religion. And every religious individual will acknowledge that essentially it was compiled by a person. Um, Obviously people think these are the words of God or inspired by God, and that's fine. That works within the frame of the game. But to say that it's not something compiled by humans is essentially, I would say, unambiguously incorrect. It is something compiled.
Very interesting, man.
Yeah.
You are an odd guy, only because
Oh yeah.
this is a gosh for a first attempt. I'm assuming this is your first attempt at
You
creating a
know,
board game.
I have another game called Glue Factory Express, but that one's a work in progress. That was the first game we went through, but we were like, shit,
Uh,
let's go big or go home.
yeah,
So we were like, yeah, we were like, just YOLO, let's do the big project, and then if that's successful, we can do Glue Factory Express
yeah,
second.
I think it's so fascinating. I love. I'm trying to be as critical as possible and devil's advocate, but I think the premise is incredibly fascinating, and I'm logically inclined to really want to explore the idea of how history in general is written by the winners, right? And that's essentially
Yeah,
what this is as your ideas win, you're writing the religious doctrine.
yeah, I would say like from like a personal perspective, I don't think there's anything uh, like that controversial in the game. If you believe that religion is written by people, then there's nothing wrong with like the core idea of the game. You know, that is what it is. And I'll be honest, it's a gameplay first game. Like I'm a gameplay first kind of guy. Like I'm not going to focus on I'm not going to sacrifice the gameplay on behalf of the story or the narrative. It goes
Yeah.
gameplay, then narrative.
Well, I think everyone will be will well, I can't speak for all religions. I think there's a perspective in Christianity we'll say that people did write these different books for sure. I think that's all in agreement. The question is, was it through God in which they wrote it, or was it through personal interest? That's the controversial idea I think you're playing with here. Not that a person wrote it.
Yeah, you know, I would say like each of the disciples that you play as in the game believe that they're writing it on behalf of a greater power, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and then the decision that actually gets put into the eulogy, the text that is put inside, is ordained by God, right? Like it's circulatory in that way. It's circulary in that way. Like if it's in the book, it means that God wanted it in the book. So therefore it's in the book, you know? So like
True.
you can
God's providence
you
could have motivated you through any different ways to get that word in the book. So,
exactly. And if that's through conflict between your other disciples, like that's still God's way of doing it and putting it into the text. So like I don't find it contradictory in that way. Uh as long as you actually believe, oh, go ahead, sorry.
no, 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 keep going, keep going.
No, as long as you literally believe, like in the most literal form, that the Bible or the Quran was put pen to paper by a human hand, there's nothing contradictory about Sunlit Eulogy.
What about the asymmetric powers? I'm assuming those will represent different motivations, correct?
Yeah, you know, my favorite one of the six is kind of based off prosperity and like what does wealth mean in religion?
Mm,
Because a lot of people will say, well, is wealth something that is meant to be given? Like it's actually a burden that you're not supposed to have. You know, the whole a wealthy man. It's easier for a camel to go through an eye of a needle than a wealthy man to enter the gates of paradise, right? Like, is that the philosophy and the belief that you believe in? Or is wealth actually a boon? Is it meant to be a tool that you're actually supposed to kind of accumulate and actually hold steadily as a gift from God? Not so. The game plays with this idea of the prosperity disciple plays with a third currency essentially, and that currency can either be given or kept, and depending on which one is belief, it influences the game board.
when somebody's playing one of these factions, are they going to feel like they're motivated by their personal perspectives or by God?
Yeah, you know, I a big part of it was like when you actually pick out your doctrine, we call it essentially
Hmm.
your faction skills. You know, when you go down your skill tree, a part of it's supposed to be like I'm a little uncomfortable with what this says about me myself.
Mm.
One of them is based off the family unit. So what she does, she can change the structure of marriage. So is marriage between just one and one, or is it between three or between four? And what does that mean for the family unit? Essentially, their whole idea is like a multiplicative faction. You know, you make pairs and then you spawn more believers. But how many is a pair? Is it a thruple? Is it more than that? And then that's kind of a whole idea we play with as well. And it's actually a big builder kind of gameplay as well. So that's the idea behind that one.
Are lizards your favorite faction en route?
No, no, God, no. My favorite faction is probably the Erie, followed by the Badgers. Yeah, the Lizards kind of suck. I would
Yeah,
say
yeah.
they're fun, but
They
they
are
suck.
fun. They
So
are fun.
yeah, yeah,
I want them to work so
yeah,
badly, and I can never really make them
yeah.
work.
You know, when I play the Lizards, I don't really feel like a cult as much as I feel like I'm
No,
handicap. You know, like it's more just like I'm kind of suffering to make influence with the outcast clearing type, and I'm
right.
like, oh my god, here we go again.
Yeah.
But it's fun in the limitations, but it's just not. I would say not my favorite.
Oh gosh. Okay. So is this game for an atheist, for a religious person, or is it for everybody? And
Oh
I'm
God,
sorry I keep going
it's
down I keep
yeah,
going down this road because I haven't played it. I haven't seen it. I haven't,
yeah.
it's just that the light bulbs went off in my head like, what's going on
Oh
here?
yeah, you no, there's no moral statement about religion itself besides what you believe. It's self-affirming in whatever you think. If you say
Okay.
religion is bad, you can list 3 or 4 reasons in the game that why it was a bad thing at the end of the day. If you say religion is good, there's 3 or 4 things that you can actually draw from the game as well. There is a little bit of kind of like a believer disbeliever system that's a little bit I would say it's the hidden teams element of the game, but essentially some disciples can essentially be so turned away from the faith that they decide to corrupt it, and to essentially reduce the success of the whole religion succeeding for millennia. But that's something I wouldn't say is a moral statement as much as it is a personal belief statement.
How far along is this game right now?
So there's a fully working print and play that's being play tested right now. The rule book I would say is about 60 to 70% done, and there's also a prototype being sent in from China as we speak.
And you're not going to have a TTS mod?
I've spoken to a couple people. It depends on the cost and the time. When it comes to the TTS, if it's like I don't know 5-10,000, maybe probably we can squeeze that in. But I would say it's not really a game that I want to prioritize over digital play. I don't think it would work very well. I think it's meant to be face to face interaction.
Well,
Um,
I just mean from like a getting to try it. There's not going to I'm not going to print it out. Not many people will. And
yeah,
they're going to be investing their money with you on blind faith and apparently no preview coverage. So that's going to be difficult, you're right, for somebody to kind of get an idea as to if it's the game for them or not.
yeah. I would say it is essentially a faith thing. It's one of the things which I sent to you previously is how much does the person behind the game matter? And like my answer to that would be not very much. Like I don't think as an individual I don't really matter. Like I would say what you're really looking for when you back a game is does this game speak to me on some level? Um, will the game be delivered? Um, and is this game something I will actively want to play? And I would say like the games speak to me, and will this game be something I want to play? That's something that I can only convince of as best as I can. And then the trust level, like it's impossible for me to prove whether or not you can trust me. Like I don't have any precedent of that besides my own existence. But like I've backed campaigns from first time creators, and I'm like, if it comes, that's great. If it doesn't, that's the risk of
Hmm.
crowdfunding. But I have no like I've slept on this before, and I'm like, okay, if it doesn't get made, and if it all blows up in my face, what does that mean? It means that I lose my YouTube. It means that I can't ever be a public figure online ever again. Like it's not worth the cost. So if it's going to be put out there for people can actually put their money on, it has to be made. Like there's no alternative. Like uh, it has to come out of my own pocket at the end of the day, but it will be made if it ever goes over, and that's just the reality that I accept.
How much research have you done around production and shipping and all of those extra things that so many designers and publishers get wrong out of the gates and make
Yeah.
and regardless of how good the game is, their projects fail or are extremely late and piss people off? Like, how are you mitigating against that?
Yeah, I would say for the like the cost of a game production, it's not. I'm probably going to aim roughly about $15 to $20 per unit. That'll be the actual cost for production. Most game companies sell at a 5 times markup, but I want to aim for selling about 80 USD, roughly 80 USD. Um, so what that means is that I'm willingly accepting a lower margin on behalf of trying to make something that's consumer friendly. And if the game found makes 25,000, and if it goes to 50,000, that's something I would cover out of pocket at the end of the day. Like it's something sacrifice has to be made. Um, if I get 500,000 uh, and it goes over cost 100,000, that's actually more stressful for me than the alternative, if
Right.
that makes any sense.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
because like yeah, because like I'm more than happy, $25,000 to make something that's meaningful for me. It's not the end of the world. 100,000, that's where I'm actually going to be like sweating.
Okay. I can continue to go, but before we move on to the hot takes, a lot of my questions will probably be be answered there by one way or the other. Anything else people need to know about your game other than to go to the page and follow it for the $5 discount, I believe?
Yeah, there's a $5 discount if you follow it. I would say if you are interested in games that are uh, games that have absolutely no sacrifice, no obligation to some kind of higher level of production, that you should consider at least backing it, because it is a game that is essentially a single vision at no expense made, that we want to fulfill and we want to sell to you as something that will be interesting, fun to play with, and ultimately a game that you can talk about on online communities and either completely hate or completely love.
Yeah. It's funny. I think in the interview that I did with Cole, I mean, I think part of his success is that he is such a polarizing figure. He doesn't try to make games for the middle. He tries to make games for his niche, and that naturally is going to come with a ton of detractors. Maybe just as many as the people who love it. Is that a space that you want to be in?
I have absolutely no interest in pleasing the average consumer at
Yeah.
all. I have no, like, there's no, it's not going to be a game that you're going to be able to play uh with your grandpa and your, like, your whole family around the table after a nice Christmas dinner. Like, you're not going to play it. It's not that kind of game.
Yeah.
And I have no interest in that. I want to focus on the design goals. I want to focus on what people feel when they're playing it, and a part of that feeling is complete hopelessness and misery. Like, that's more interesting to me than trying to explain, oh, uh let's do some Euro game conversions and all feel good about our 150 points at the end of the game, and even if you don't win, you still are a winner to me. I have no interest in that, right?
Oh, what a
Dude,
perfect transition to these
yeah.
hot
I'm
takes.
sorry. I just those I play Castle of Burgundy on BGA with my friends, and at the end of the day, like, we're all like, have a couple hundred points. And I'm like, that was fucking, like, it was like, I felt nothing. Like, I felt no joy, no anger, nothing. Like, I'd rather feel complete and utter misery than go through that uh repeatedly. Anyway.
Okay. All right, so let's transition to the hot takes. I think I have 8 acts here of hot takes. I
Let's
don't know.
go.
We're already 52 minutes into this thing, so we'll see what we do. I may have to jump ahead, but anyways, let's start with one of the lightest. Says Claude, teaching is the host's job. The person who brings the game must know it. Don't hand someone the rule book while you punch tokens. Pre-game teach is mandatory. Read the rules at home is unrealistic and antisocial. This comes from one of your videos, the commandments video, I believe,
Yeah.
number 2.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is to me like a menthol take. Like, the person who brings the game to the table should be the one to
Yeah,
understand the
menthol.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, there's no spice here. It's like, uh, do you really expect a normal, sane human who works a 9 to 5 to spend 2 hours of their day actually reading through a rule book or watching YouTube tutorials, fully engaged in a game that they don't even own? I'm like, that's like borderline craziness to me. So if you're bringing the game, please learn it. It's a menthol take.
So, but what about arcs or root where there's these deep level? Is it okay to let them fully struggle and just give them the high level mechanical teach? I mean, I think Cole did a 20-minute arcs teach, and arcs is relatively simple, but there's a lot of meta elements there that if you don't warn somebody about, their first game is likely to be hell.
I would say one of the other hot takes that maybe we're going to cover or not, but, like, the game is discovery for 90% of people.
Yeah, this is
That
one too.
is the game.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, like,
Yeah.
if you take away the form of discovery, then there isn't that initial game that people are expected to experience. So I would actually say you're doing a disservice by trying to explain meta tactics or trying to explain, the intricacies of this faction versus that faction. I think that's actually the whole point um, of playing a game. Like, most people are going to play arcs maybe 2 or 3 times in their entire life. And nobody at 2 or 3 times is playing at a high level. So you don't need to worry about that. If they know how to play a game, if they know how to capture certain, initiatives and basic functional play, that's all you really need to teach them.
Yeah, I mean, I think I do get that. I think Arcs is a little. Well, we'll take Arcs as an example, like the court cards. It can be a little overwhelming at first, so people aren't even reading those, and those are such an important part of the game. And I've seen this from new players where they fully ignore the court and just get completely destroyed and have a bad experience there. So, is it on
Yeah,
them to understand more about that game before they kind of come in to play it?
I think it's fine for a teacher to say the court is important. I think it's not fine to say, oh, well, this card will let you do this and this and this. You know, I feel
Mm.
like people need to actually explain, not to explain, to come to that conclusion themselves. And that's where a lot of the joy of the game is being like, oh, all of a sudden I have this card, and, you know, it will affect the initiative in this way. And I feel good about discovering that for myself. And I would say that's more important than it is to try to explain the value of every single piece.
So where did you get the 90% of, is it 90% of people are motivated by game discovery rather than
I
winning?
would say I would say the game is 90% discovery.
Got it. Okay. So
So
okay, keep going. Keep going on that thought.
I'm working on an Old King's Crown. I'm late to the party, but I'm working on a review for that one. And like the game first 3, 4 times is literally just discovering mechanics. That is the game for
Hmm.
most people. And 3 to 4 people, 3 to 4 games of the Old King's Crown is likely all that someone will play in their entire life. So
Yeah, that's
what is
probably
the
true.
game
Yeah.
except for
If that.
discovery? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, is do your takes, or this take in particular, need to have the caveat that you might be jaded in that you play highly strategic asymmetric games that are relatively complex, that discovery is absolutely a feature. And if you're not the type of person that likes to discover a game, you're the one that's rating arcs a 1 on BGG after your first play.
Yeah, you know, I would say anyone listening to this podcast or this interview, myself and you included, we're all in the fucking deep end, you
Yeah.
know? Like we're all like yeah, like
Yeah.
we're fucked in the head in a way.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
I'm searching up all these weird edge cases and like trying to figure out how certain things, and like at the end of the day I flip through all the mechanics and go like, okay, what possible interactions can I come up with next time? And that's a fucking sickness, you know? Like
Yeah,
I'm not
it
saying
is.
that this is a normal behavior. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is like, uh, for an average human being, they will sit down at a table, someone will explain the game to them, they will play it once, they will discover the mechanics, interactions, and then they will walk away never thinking about the game again.
And I think it's a pretty good litmus test on whether you're a psychopath or not if you continue to think about it.
Yeah, I would say like it's a nice feeling when you go home and go like, oh, that was a great game. That was a lot of fun. Maybe I'll, you know, see how much it costs on Amazon. Then you see it's $120 and you're like, well, fuck me, you know? Um,
Shit.
yeah, but like that's about the extent for a normal human being. And then the moment you go on BGG or Reddit, or, you know, if you go on some of those more obscure discords like the Root one or the TI4 one, like you're practically in a niche of a niche. You're a board gaming enthusiast essentially, and at that point your kind of conversations aren't applicable to the vast majority of people.
Right. So when you're speaking to your audience, you very well know that your hot takes are relevant to a niche, a fine sliver of people, and they shouldn't take it as
Yeah,
gospel just for
you
other
know,
crazy people like you.
I went to dinner with some of I guess you would call them normie friends, but like
You have those? Ugh.
my yeah, I know I have a couple, quite a few. But one of my normie friends was like, listen to my channel to support the algorithm. You know, he was like, oh, I toss it on when I'm doing laundry or whatever. And he's like, he looks to me dead in the eye and he's like, you're a fucking nerd. And I was like, yeah, like I
Yeah.
am. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's my thing.
Thank you.
Um,
No
yeah,
shit. When
and
did
I'm
you
like,
figure
that's
this out? Yeah.
yeah,
What kind of
yeah.
double
And I'm
life have
like,
you been leading that people don't already know
yeah.
that about you?
You know, because I have a lot of hobbies like outside of the like board gaming. You know, like I'm big into like the gym. You know, so I'm into gym culture. So you know, like I have like that kind of stuff behind the scenes, and like I love these guys, but they're not. I'm not going to invite them to play TI4 for 12 hours a day, and if I do, I expect them to say no. You know.
Very good. So now we know you're living a double life here. You're a closeted nerd, and your friends are just figuring out just how bad it is. And it's judging by
You know,
your channel and the stuff you talk about, it's pretty fucking bad.
yeah, you know, I own it on my sleeve. You know, I don't have any shame of it. But like, no, not everyone wants to play these kind of games. You know, like nobody wants to obsess over it, right? Not everyone wants to obsess over it.
Yeah. So most rule books are a sin is the number 2 hot take here. When you say most, do you really mean most rule books are a sin? People do not know how to write rule books.
You know, I don't know if I fully agree with that. If I did say that, I might be incorrect in saying it. I don't think the rule books themselves are a sin. I think like a bad rule book is a sin for sure.
Got it.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
like that, there's no question there. But like everyone should have a rule book. It should be made. It should be made well. And a good rule book is something of beauty. You know, like when you
Is it
flip through a
more
rule book and
often than
everything's
not it's good or bad?
I would say the general trend right now, at least for the games I play, is that the rule books are pretty good.
Okay.
Like I was playing again, Old King's Crown is kind of on my hit list right now, and I'm like that rule book is like pretty perfect. I would say like
Oh,
reading
really?
through it, I'm like, yeah. Well, I mean, at least my interpretation of it, I'm like it's hard to beat. I would say, um, but obviously there's bad rule books, and bad rule books should be culled and fixed, and communities tend to go around and make their own little rule books when that happens.
And you say, I believe that rule checking during the game is a sin. Is that true? Or
You
shouldn't
know,
consume the game?
yeah, I would say it shouldn't consume the game. Like it's fine to make a bad rule if it keeps the pace of play, is how I would frame it. If you uh if everyone pulls up their phone for 15 minutes trying to find this weird edge case on BGG and it doesn't come up, like obviously just make a call and move on with your life. And if you feel like you're not playing the game 100% correct, just figure it out for next time kind of deal. But I absolutely detest when the game pauses for longer than 30 seconds to check a rule, essentially.
Even on the first play, I find it very often that that's happening on the first play for me. And then it gets better. By third play, if it's still happening, then I know there's a rules overhead / rule book issue.
Yeah, but do you find that like do you like reading the rule book in the middle of the game? Because when I pull
No,
up the rule
no, I
book, it's
hate
like
it. That's
cringe,
why
you
I
know?
built
Yeah, that's what I'm
I
saying.
built
Yeah.
a rules wizard where it's connected to a GPT API, and I have the rules wizard to answer questions for me.
You know, just that existence of that tool is a hot take, you know? Lots of
It-
people fucking hate that stuff, you know?
yeah, of course. Everyone hates AI, and I lost my
Yeah,
job
yeah.
to it, so fuck it.
Oh yeah, yeah. uh
I know
yeah,
better
I
than
mean like
everyone.
yeah, it's I'm sure you get a lot of heat for the existence of that thing, you
I
know?
haven't actually. I haven't.
Oh.
I think it's incredible. I think being able to sit there and ask a question and not have to flip through a shitty rule book is wonderful. But the one thing that it doesn't do yet, at least, is like the icons. Icons
Yeah.
are kind of a plague. Although if they're done really well, I guess learning the new language of icons pisses me off consistently, especially if there's more than
Oh
a
yeah.
dozen. you know, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I think we're at 9 or 10 in Sunlit Eulogy, so you might fucking hate it, but
Woo! No,
that's okay.
I said a dozen. I said a dozen. So okay, we're gonna be okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Are they colorblind friendly?
They're actually mostly black and white,
Okay.
so we'll see how that pans
Is
out.
that
Yeah.
colorblind friendly? I don't even know. I'm guessing so.
I don't know, man. That's a good question. Yeah.
That'll be a question on the campaign for sure. Almost
Yeah, exactly.
every campaign has that. Okay.
You know, I gotta find some colorblind playtesters, you know?
House rules is not cheating. Is
Oh,
that
no.
true?
House rules are fine. Yeah, house rules are fine.
In solo, I
I
can
think
cheat as much as I want when I'm playing by myself.
uh I think like a house rule, as long as you come to that agreement before you start playing, it is the rule of the game, and therefore it is not cheating. So if you say, you know, I don't know, fuck in I don't know, TI4, everyone starts with 12 commodities. Fuck, I don't know, I'm making something up. If that's the rule of the game and everyone agrees to it, that is the new rule, and therefore it's not cheating if everyone agrees to it. So essentially, house rules are a non-issue if everyone comes together and agrees on them.
Do you house rule much?
And same, uh, I'm trying to think. Do I house rule? I don't think so. No, I'm looking at my game wall. I'm like, do any of these house rule?
I often house rule markets, card markets, stale card markets that don't have a mechanism to rotate them often drive me absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Even card markets that have a mechanism that have ultra specific cards that are needed for specific combos just drive me insane if there's not a constant flow or I don't see half the deck in the game. That pisses me
You know,
off.
I don't know how into Dune Imperium you are, but that was a problem in Dune Imperium,
Mhm.
and then they implemented a reset. But the reset kind of sucks ass too, you know? Like it fucking blows because all people do is refresh when there's good cards in the market to deny it of your opponents. And I'm like, fuck, I don't even want to play with this refresh mechanic. So I
Yeah.
find, you know, there's a lot of
Card
a
markets
balance
are
with
annoying.
that.
They're annoying, but so the the card market essentially came with Ascension, innovating on top of Dominion. Right, he was solving a problem of the stale, static. Everyone sees the same cards. It's an arbiter of excitement, just like luck. I think we'll talk a little bit about luck later, and you have a great video on that. But at that same time, there's still that core issue with not seeing even the right card. Well, seeing the most expensive card early on that you're never going to be able to afford, or never seeing the card that's going to combo with the thing in which you were really trying to focus in on, and the other person is getting all of their synergistic faction cards or whatever it happens to be on whatever game. I don't know quite how to solve that other than just having a mechanism to constantly refresh it. I
Yeah,
think it's a problem
I
making
don't.
it voluntary though, because it becomes a take that mechanism.
Exactly. Yeah, you got it. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I don't think there's like you said, there's not an easy fix besides just constant refresh. But even constant refresh, I'm like, it kind of prevents you from planning long term. So there's a little bit of a give and take over there, I think, as well.
I think I've also house ruled extra rounds in the past. You say, and this comes in your luck video, I believe, that every game, or maybe it's not a luck video, but you said, I believe, that every game should end before the fun is over. Correct? That was in one of your videos.
100%. Yeah, yeah. I've said
Yeah.
that it was in one of my hot videos.
Yeah. So I think sometimes games end way too early where you just feel like, oh my gosh, I'm just getting started. And I don't have any great examples right off the top of my head, but do you ever see that? Do you ever see you need more time to enjoy the fun?
You know, I would say the only game I feel that way about is Camel Up because like it does
Mm.
kind of it's a buildup of enthusiasm. So I'm like, I wish it lasted one or two more rounds, but it is also that perfect like 20-minute kind of treat game. But I'm a diehard Camel Up fan, so like that's
That was a question coming
but
up. So let's transition to that. So I've never played
yeah, yeah.
Camel Up. Am I not a board gamer
What?
since I've never played the
Dude,
best
what?
game?
What
I
do you
have
not
Camel
do?
Up the card game somewhere,
Yeah,
and I just
yeah,
never played
yeah,
it.
it's not
But
that good. It's
yeah,
not that
okay.
good. I don't like the card game.
I
Yeah.
actually, well, when I
Um,
saw that, I went looking for a digital version and I couldn't find anything. So
you know, I would say if the goal of games is joy, Camel Up is probably the best game ever made. If that's how you
joy,
define, you
define
know,
joy.
yeah, I would say like uh, happiness, enthusiasm, general sense of engagement with something positive, and just like you know uh, the uh, the aura of people just having a good time is how I would define
Yeah, like
Camel Up.
joy to me is like an output or an outcome of a game, possibly. And then there's a lot of games that I think we'll talk about Earth later that try to over engineer for dopamine, which is like the anticipation of joy. So you would
Yeah.
say a Camel Up is a pure arbiter of joy, not necessarily dopamine or the anticipation of such.
You know, a lot of people go like, okay, what's the difference between a toy and a game? You know, like a game is like a toy with rules, essentially. So like I would say Camel Up is enjoyable in the toy sense as well as the game sense, because watching things stack on top of each other and seeing that movement is innately pleasurable without the actual rules in game implied, assigned to it, I should say. So essentially, it tickles something deeper than just like, oh, these are nice looking cards that have mechanisms, but it's actually like a tangible thing to play with, is what I would find the benefit of Camel Up is. People say the same with Hot Streak, but I haven't played that one yet, so I gotta get on that.
We'll get to hot streak. I think there's another one coming up around agency. So I have some hot takes around hot streak, magical athlete, and flip 7 coming up here. Play to win equals the game's definition of winning, not yours. The most beautiful wingspan tableau means you're not playing wingspan. Commandment number 6, I think.
Yeah, I can't remember all the commandments, but essentially the argument there is that that to play on arbitrarily defined, self-imposed metrics of what success is to disengage with the game at its core intentional mechanics. So if you say I'm going to play Wingspan or Wormspan or whatever game, and say my whole goal of the game is to make the most beautiful or even the most small or most blue or whatever definitional criteria you set for yourself, and then if you say I'm just going to play for that goal, you're not engaging with the game on its terms, and you're not even really playing Wormspan at that point.
What if Elizabeth Hargrave's intention was for you to have the satisfaction of building the thing, building the beautiful ecosystem with the birds in the right place? That was part of the intention, even though it's not in the rules. Is that still okay?
I don't think it's a moral wrong. It's not like you're like, oh, I'm a bad person. I gotta slap you or something for doing that. No, God, no. But I would say that you're not actually playing the game at that point. That that's not actually the game itself. And I would go one step further and say, what if the game was you just taking all the cards, you fan them out in your hand, and as you fan them out, you just pick out the most beautiful ones, right? Like if that was the game, it's the same components, it's the same pieces, but you're not playing Wormspan at that point.
I think some people play like that.
Oh yeah, but would you say that they can rate it on BGG a 10 out of 10? That's not the game,
a
right?
whole nother thing. Everyone's different scale. Yes, they can do whatever the hell they want, because I don't look at BGG ratings and give them any credence whatsoever, because everyone's experiences and games they've played and so on and so forth lead to a vastly different scale for every single person. But I do agree they're not engaging in the rules.
Yeah. I guess my question is to you, like, would you say that they played the game, period? Like, did they even play it if that's how they engage with it?
I don't think it's up to me to make that judgment. I think they could do whatever the hell they want.
I think it's fine for them to do it. I just don't think they played the game.
Yeah. It's just your judgment is that you didn't really play that game, so make sure you don't rate that thing.
Yeah, well, I would say that if someone came up to me and was like, oh my God, Wingspan is the best game I ever played, and I play it by looking at all the cards and I pick out all the birds I like, I would be like, you didn't play the game. Like that's not the game.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I play games, I don't play them to win per se. I like to see what happens. I like to go and pull the different levers. This kind of nests with that discovery assertion that we talked a little bit about earlier. The fun for me is actually figuring out what lever to pull, what it does. Is that a good lever to go pull next time? Or should I go pull a different one? Does it even matter, Earth, if I pull that lever over the other lever over here? Like, that's the fun for me. And the moment that I figure it out, not that I'm the best at it, but I just understand it, I start to get bored with it. Is that okay for me to engage with games like that?
Yep, absolutely. So suboptimal play is still playing to win. Playing to win doesn't mean that you need to make the best decision in every single situation. What it means is that you understand the rules definition of winning and that you work towards that goal in whatever way you feel comfortable with.
Beautiful.
So I wouldn't say that, like, if I play root and I draft the lizards or the cats or whatever and they suck, did I not play to win? No, I still played to win. I just played to win within the game's constraints of what they gave to me and what I felt like doing in that turn or in that action.
So I was at a game night. It was Root. It was the group of guys I'd never played before. And I brought my copy. I was super excited. And a guy comes in late, of course. I had everything set up and he had a big thing of Chinese food. And all of a sudden I started to cringe. And then he also later on, and I wanted to leave, honestly. And and then later on, he started bending my cards, which was, I think, your commandment number 10: treat games as physical objects people care about. Don't bend cards while waiting.
Yeah, dude, like I couldn't buy the Old King's Crown. Like, I don't have my own copy. I rented my friend's. And like the very first thing I told him is like, I will tend to that thing like it's your baby.
Yeah.
Like, I am not gonna fuck around with it.
Especially that. Good luck
Like
finding it.
exactly. And I'm like, it has value to him as an object and also as like a future plan in his life. You know, like he wants to engage with it again. And for me to rob him of that experience because I treat it poorly, or to reduce that experience because, you know, a card is bent or a piece is missing, I'm like, that's actually like not ethically okay. Like, you shouldn't intentionally damage anything. Of course, you know, when you handle cards and when you handle pieces, things get broken, things get lost, cards get edges frayed, and that's the existence of just operating with a game. But to treat it intentionally poorly or to treat it without care is, I would say, like a wrong that you should avoid.
Yeah, I don't think many people would do it intentionally. It's just like becomes a fidget toy as they're sitting there waiting for their turn.
Yeah, I would say 100% I'm guilty of that as well. But it's something consciously where I would say like, I go like, holy shit, don't do that. Like, this guy wants to play with this game again, you know? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like I would, you know, go, I'm actually into like, you know, fuck, what is it? What do they call it? Like card artistry, you know, like flipping cards around and stuff. So if I really want to fidget with something, I'll grab a deck of cards, you know?
Hmm.
I think they literally call it cardistry.
Really? Are you a card sleever?
Okay, I fucking hate that I was, you know, that I did in my life.
Yeah, I was too.
I regret it. Yeah. But now the games that I sleeved, I'm like, I don't want to unsleeve them, so I have to get new sleeves for them. But like, I will never sleeve a new game again, ever.
No matter what the game is, if it's the most wonderful, it trumps Camel Up in the future as like the #1 game of all time. You're not going to protect it.
It's just it's just so much effort for so little pay. Like, okay, I've played
But it helps
my
shuffling
copy.
too. Like, you know, like the sleeving and being able to do that.
It's negligible, dude. It's negligible. Like, don't like.
No, it's fun though. It's fun. I
I
like to shuffle like that. You don't have to sit
dude,
there and go, and just like it's you're just like assaulting your
no.
cards.
Don't do that. Like, you gotta find like proper ways to shuffle your card. Like, just like, you know, do 5 piles of 5. You know, something like that.
Oh
I don't know,
gosh, that's no fun.
I'm not saying it's fun, but I'm saying like sleeving is not 90% of the time not worth it. Let me put it like that.
What's the 10% of the time it is?
It is for those games that you're guaranteed to play 100 times. You know, that's what it is. Right?
Is your copy of Root sleeved?
It is, and I don't think it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, you're not constantly shuffling or anything. For me, it's like a deck builder of some sort where you're constantly, you know, shuffling your cards or your decks over and over and over again. Like, I got this used copy of Clank from somebody, and it was just a trade on BGG. And this thing, oh my gosh, it had been through. I've never received a game like this in my entire life. He'd never disclosed there was any damage, and these cards basically felt like paper. You could see that they were just like shuffled over and over and over and over again. And I was like, oh, this is so sad. I went straight to Clank Catacombs after that. I couldn't even bear to play it.
You know, a part of me actually doesn't mind seeing those kind of games because, like, I'm like, I've actually played through it that much, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a testament for sure.
Yeah.
That a lot of times when you get a trade, sometimes you'll get like a trade. I don't know if you trade games ever, but you'll get some that are just crispy. It's just like, oh, like this person, like there's stacks of cards that they hadn't even taken the wrap off. Like they just got like the core deck out or something. And you're just like, how did this person even, and it'll be some crazy deluxe edition or something like that. It's like, they just didn't even touch it. We'll get to probably
that's just
that
someone who
future,
fell for FOMO and you know couldn't fucking help themselves. But like I'm playing the Lord of the Rings trick taking game a lot, and I'm like, these cards are like getting fucked up, you know, like they're fucked up cards now. And I'm like, it's fine, you know, that's evidence of my my affection towards the game, I guess.
Yeah, early on, and I think we'll talk about the 30 game collection, or that was kind of what I thought I would have. And like a game like Lost Ruins of Arnak and Great Western Trail and Dune Imperium, like those are going to be like my only games. So I sleeved absolutely everything. I'm going to play those things like 100 times, which I played all of those a lot because they were like my entry to the hobby. But it just became such a chore to sleeve everything. And now I'm like, you know what, in a lot of these cases, I'm not playing these games enough to ever do the damage that I saw on that Clink copy. So I don't bother at all unless the game is just an absolute joy and I know it's going to be there forever.
Give me a new hot take. I'm ready.
Emotional
let's
design. So, okay, so good mad versus bad mad. Explain to me the difference and why you need to feel something in a game, and
Yeah,
be pissed.
Yeah, I would say like the function of a game isn't in like necessarily joy or fun or like happiness or whatever you want to decide it is. I would say the function of a game, and if it's successful, is that whatever emotional reaction it's designed to create is fulfilled. So a game that I would say is the classic for this is like Diplomacy. Like Diplomacy to me isn't even a fun game. Like it kind of sucks to play. It feels unintuitive. The mechanics are weird and kind of they don't really click that well. But the consequence of all that is that you get to actually like really, really engage with just like lying and cheating and interacting with people in the nastiest way you can. And I would say that kind of anger or that kind of mad that you feel from like being betrayed is evidence that you cared about the game state enough, and that is the intended desire of the game. And you feeling that means that the game is successful. So that's how I would frame it. If you're mad because you're like, oh, this game fucking sucks, like I don't get to draw the card I want, or like I don't like how you play this, or I don't engage with you, that's just being a bad sport. That's rude and not good human behavior. But to feel mad because you got fucked over in like a clever gameplay based way, that's like a very good thing I find in games.
Yeah, what's the line though? Like, is it just an outward expression of mad is the wrong? Is that the sin? If somebody is like outwardly expressing like they're pissed off at you?
No. Like I would say the line is essentially like, is it something that you can leave at the table or is it something you can't? Like,
But is that a
if you play
personal problem if
Diplomacy,
you can't? Or is it a
100%,
game function
100%.
problem?
I don't. I think games can be designed to make you mad, and those kind of games I celebrate as like as a very, I would say almost like, uh, okay. Let me frame it this way: we live in Earth, and in Earth we come to agree in our society based off what rules and what kind of behaviors and what kind of expected uh, obligations we all individually have. And then when you go into the games world, there's a new set of obligations and behaviors and moral right and wrongness that's within the game. Um, to experiment with that and to actually play through that and to sit down with someone else across the table and say, I'm here to fuck you over, and we're both going to do that to each other, that is a glorious thing for us to be in. That's a glorious state of life. And that's something that is so rare and valuable that I want it to be celebrated. But then if you take that feeling out of the magic circle that was in the game, the one that we all agreed upon that you can fuck around with, and you go into the normal society, the one with our obligations and our expectations, those behaviors that we were just having in the game aren't morally acceptable in real life. So it's not the game's fault, it's an individual's fault. And if you can't keep that boundary separate, you shouldn't be playing those games. That's just the reality of it. Or you should kind of work on yourself. I would say social deduction games are incredibly guilty of this, because social deduction games are essentially individual personalities versus other individual personalities. And at that point, it's hard to not feel personal, because like you are going to gaslight people, you are going to lie to your spouse's face and say, like, I'm going to tell you something that's not truthful, and then your spouse has to walk away with that going like, oh my god, the love of my life the past 20 years lied to me. How can I compartmentalize that?
Would you prefer to feel mad after Diplomacy or happy after Camel Up?
Yeah, I would say the value of those is dependent essentially on the mood of the day. Like it's not
Do
like
they have the
one is better
same
than the
core
other.
value? Okay, that's what I was
Yeah,
asking.
yeah. I would say there's not a right way to say like, the games that make me mad are better than games that make me happy. It's not like that. I would say both of them are equally valuable in unique and valuable ways.
But at the same time, Diplomacy can also make you happy if you come out victorious.
Yeah, I would say diplomacy can make you happy coming out victorious, but that does involve a certain level of deceit and a certain level of making other people mad, you know? Like,
Do you ever feel
is it true
bad?
happy? Uh, like in a game? Not really,
Yeah.
no. I
Yeah.
would
Screwing
say like,
somebody over.
yeah,
Do you feel good?
no. I wouldn't say it's good either. I would say it's more, yeah, these are fantastic questions, by the way. I would say it's more like, haha, I got you, son of a bitch, you know,
Yeah.
like, fuck, like, let's go, you know?
That looks good to
Like that,
me.
yeah, yeah, you know, like that's what it is. It's not like, oh, I outsmarted you, so now I'm superior to you, and my ego has inflated. Like that's fucking psychopath behavior. I would say it's more just like, you know, that was a fun little dance we did.
There is nothing better than when you can get together with a group of people and you have that social contract that it's okay to screw each other over in this small circle over the next 3 hours, and it's looked upon as a positive in that there's banter that's going along with it. You're starting to wheel and deal above the people that enjoy that all together. It really becomes this magical experience, or role play essentially, where you're able to kind of pull yourself out of your normal day to day, probably trying to do the right thing, probably hopefully trying to be honest, but then you can role play a little bit on, that nasty side that all of us probably have deep down inside, but then do it in all good fun. The worst part is when there's somebody in there that doesn't quite understand that contract that we've all signed, and they're pissed when they get ganged up on when they're leading the game, and we all start to gang up and take out that leader.
Dude, that's the fucking dream scenario when you're all together and you know, like everyone agrees, like if I get targeted, it's not me as an individual, but it's just the way I play the game, right?
Yeah, expect to be targeted.
Exactly.
That's what should happen, but some people
I
don't
mean,
like that.
all of these, it's the nature of the individual, but like those zero sum games are essentially like an expression of your greed, of your Machiavellian traits. You know, it's recognizing that humans can scheme and be manipulative, and it's not something that we need to hide necessarily in a game. And that's why I would say that those games should be celebrated as like, you know, tapping into something interesting about our psychology.
It really is. I guess I can see why they are so polarizing, but they're also the most exciting for me. Some people just hate it. They never want to lie. Like they don't. There's a couple of people I talked about in the show that they just don't. That's not something that they like morally find okay. So then it's by extension in the game they feel bad about it. They can't like separate those two things, and I don't look to go and lie and be morally corrupt, but in the confines of the game, for whatever reason, it's like the most exciting thing possible. And even when I get the bad beat, I still appreciate it because I like the story that was told while doing it.
I think it is just an acknowledgement, like, you know, in the games world, these behaviors are acceptable. You know, that's all it is. And if you can't acknowledge that and, you know, walk away from it and go back to your normal life as a moral, upstanding individual, like you shouldn't be playing those games. And that's just the reality of it.
What's a bad mad? You had bad mads in your video.
Yeah, I would say a bad mad is essentially it is going out of the table and saying that I am now pissed off at you beyond the world of the game, and that's the core of bad mad. And games that make you mad tend to also make you bad mad if you take it home with you. You know, um,
You also said
again,
like
social.
powerless mad, like Munchkin, rules ambiguity,
Oh,
Robinson Crusoe, tedium
yeah,
mad,
you know,
Gloomhaven, etc.
I would say those are mads that are I would say secondary almost. Those are kind of like, to me, like these are kind of shitty games in a way, you know,
Right.
like it's just like
They
I'm
didn't
mad because
produce
this
that
game is shitty.
emotion as an output of the design. They produced it
Exactly.
as it, despite, all good intentions in it, trying to be a good game. It just fell short with something and pissed you off.
You know, I would say Munchkin's like the perfect example. Like it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be lighthearted. It's supposed to be like this, like, haha, I got you, bitch, you know, but it's not. All it is a circle of people suffering. You know, we're all just watching each other slowly dive into a form of insanity. And I'm like, that makes me kind of fucking mad because I'm like, this game fucking sucks, you know? Like that's what it is.
I think this is out of context, but Wingspan punishes its own players. Nobody cares how brilliant your move was because everybody's head down in their own engine. This was, I believe, a Commandments video.
Yeah. So essentially, what my I guess what that draws from is that um, in a game like Wingspan, or any kind of, I would say, primarily solitaire game, your ingenuity isn't recognized because there's no consequence to any other player. If you make a brilliant move in Wingspan, or whatever kind of solitaire game, it's only brilliant to you, and nobody else will feel the impact of that, and therefore it's not really a celebrated moment of brilliance. It's essentially just like, oh, here you go, here's a small round of applause, here's an extra 5 points, now don't you feel good about yourself? That's what it is.
Why do you need to be
There's no
validated by another player though?
I would say if you're sitting around people with other individuals, you want to have some level of interaction with them. Um, and I don't think like tally and score at the end of the game is actual meaningful interaction. I think it's kind of cringe when at the end of a game you're like, oh well, let me do my little math, and here I got 120 points, and Bob has 115. I win. That's like, that's not like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you guys sitting across the table doing that? It doesn't
So
make any
in
sense to me.
Wingspan, though, sometimes I get some satisfaction, and I actually like Wingspan. I don't like Earth. When Wingspan was just, it's probably a nostalgic pick. It was the very first hobbyist board game I played back in 2020, and but as you're taking score at the end, you'll get to tuck cards as an example, and I have 37 fucking tuck cards, and they're like, what the hell happened? We were so close in score. You have 37 tuck cards. What was that? Well, I had this bird and this bird, and that's where I can kind of show off that I had this incredible bird tucking engine, and now they can kiss my feet.
Yeah, but I guess to me it's like, um, did they feel that though? Did they feel it in the game? Did your bird tuck and engine actually meaningfully engage with them on a level
No,
beyond just like applause? Exactly.
no.
You know, and
They could
and
have. They
that's
could have seen
I
what they could have hate drafted you and seen that you needed a particular bird. If they're smart, high level wingspan play would have hate drafted those cards so you could not get them.
I agree with you, but 90% of people do not play at that level, and that's not the way they engage with Wingspan, and that's just like, that's not the game that people are playing when they actually sit down and play Wingspan, I would say.
Do you hate low interaction games?
But hate's a bad word. Hate
Yeah,
is
of
not
course.
the
That's
word
why
I
I
would
use
use.
it.
Yeah. Oh
We're
shit,
trying to
my
clip
camera.
stuff
I
here.
kicked my camera. I kicked my camera. Give me a sec. Fuck.
You got very excited when I said that.
Yeah, no, because I'm like, fuck. Give me a sec. Oh, bro. Oh my god. Okay, there we go. That's better. Hate is not the word I would use. Hate is, I would say, games with low interaction are less interesting, is the way I would put it.
Yeah, I think interaction is an incredible arbiter of depth, and it's because it gives a new game every time and is highly dynamic. And outside of everything, the designer could put in all of these different gadgets and gizmos to make it interesting, or variable setups or whatever it is. Nothing will replace another human being making dynamic choices, let alone two or three human beings into the game state that's constantly changing every turn. Some people absolutely hate that though, because they don't want their plans ruined. And it is amazing that there are so many. I'm kind of an omni gamer. I'm all over the place, but I prefer interaction. But there is a lot of people that just hate it, absolutely despise it. How do you reconcile it? Are those people idiotic?
No, no, God, no. They're not idiotic. God.
Come on, I'm trying to get
Fuck.
clips here.
No. The way I see it is that I play games face to face with people. Oh, you okay, buddy?
No, I'm fine. I just splashed water into my eyes. Keep going.
Oh, all good. Yeah. The way I see it is I sit down and play across a table with someone, not to engage with them, to actually, be
Yeah.
interested in what they're doing, and to be interested in their movements, to be interested in their thought process. And these kind of solitaire games, they remove that element, or at least minimize it to a point where it's not interesting. So when you sit down with someone and, it's supposed to be screen free time, it's supposed to be human interaction, why would I spend my time playing a game that intentionally minimizes interaction? It kind of defeats the purpose to me. But I do play solitaire games mostly on BGA, just because it's convenient. There is that digital barrier already. But I don't usually play solitaire games face to face, is the way I would say it.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'll play pretty much anything, but my satisfaction level is higher. In fact, I actually should pull this data because I have it with Cardboard. As people log games, they log an enjoyment rating. I'm interested to see, is in general high interaction games more fulfilling, at least from their kind of self-reported fulfillment at the end of the game. But that's personally for
Do
me.
you,
Go ahead.
do you have a fulfillment ranking? I haven't checked out your website, so that's a
I
very
I
good metric.
I don't,
would add
I
in.
don't expose yet because I'm waiting for, although I have like 59,000 plays on there now. I don't expose the enjoyment rating yet, but that's the goal, is to supersede a rating, because what I want to know also is how that enjoyment rating happens over time. If you look in the feed, there is, as in somebody puts in a play, it shows a line graph of what their enjoyment has done over time on the game. Has it gone up? Has it been up and down? And some of them tell a really clear story that game you lose enjoyment over time. A game like Arcs in general, it is constantly going up over time. The more you play the game, the more you actually enjoy it, and that's in the data. It's limited. It's
So,
not BGG level data, but it's data.
so do you actually enjoyment over time? So people would be expected to rate the game multiple times after each
No, it's, well,
playthrough. Is the
so
idea?
what we're talking about is plays. So when they log a play, they'll say 1 to 10, how much did they enjoy that play?
Oh, okay, okay,
So,
okay. I see what you're
but
saying. Yeah.
also I do for reviews as well. So in BGG, when you overwrite your review, it's just overwritten. Here at Cardboard, we do we just create a new data point so I can track what your perspective is as an official rating over time. So one of the I think the core issues with BGG's top 100, a lot of those are old ratings. Some of them are knee-jerk ratings. Is Brass Birmingham actually the best game?
Yeah.
Or was it the best game after the first couple plays? Or was it the best game back when it came out for the very first time and everyone rated it? How old are those ratings? So all of that data, I think, it's missing context, and I try to capture all of that.
How much value do you put into the wisdom of the masses? That's my question.
So what, zero? I think aggregate scores are really meaningless. But what I do think is, if you have people that have a similar preference profile as you, what they say about a game is highly valuable. So on Cardboard, based upon how you've rated different games, it kind of creates a profile based on how much you like luck in games, interaction, immersion, depth, etc. And it'll give you a percentage match to another person. So if Mr. Pasti is a 80% match to me and they rated that game a 10, I should probably pay attention, because in general, we like the same things. That, I think,
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
that to me is the goal. The masses are worthless because people rate a game at 1 when it hasn't delivered on time, or they use AI art, or they played it one time and somebody messed up the teach, or they hate all whirly games. Whatever it happens to be, none of that is valuable. That's why everything kind of averages out at a 7.3. For anywhere, if it's a 6, it's essentially a shit game, and if it's an 8, it's the best game of all time. It's just the way that the math kind of works on all of that. So yeah, I think the wisdom of the masses, I think BGG rating any sort of top 100, which I do have on there, but it's worthless. Really, what you want to see is a top 100 based upon people that look like you. People that like games like you, that like leader games, that like high interaction, that like high depth, that like medium luck or low luck or whatever it might be. Those are the people you should be paying attention to. Not even me on YouTube. Whatever I say is bullshit. It doesn't even matter.
So I guess my question is like, if there's 1,000 people and 900 of them like Brass Birmingham, doesn't that say something, or does it not?
It does. It says something at a point in time. My first question is, when were those reviews put out? Has anyone ever followed up? How many people have actually re-rated that game? How many times has every one of those people actually played that game? What is their favorite game now? And I think there's something to say on BGG. When you get a lot of ratings for a game, it's typically, and I think we'll talk about it, something that's hit the algorithm, that's been made to become very popular, and people might like it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the best game ever.
True.
I think Brass might be the best game ever if you made all of those people re-rank the game and they're all like, oh no, it's the same thing. I've since played it 20 times and it's the same rating. that to me would then say like, hey, that is the best game of all time, not at a given point in time. And also, you know, the state of design changes over time, whether you like it or not. New things come out. So did that Brass Birmingham hit this really special moment and get a critical mass and was in the midst of other games that were just not as interesting? You know, I think there's a lot of ways that data is not particularly helpful, and I would never tell anybody to look at a top 100 list and go make decisions. I would say maybe it's a good place to start, but not say it's a good place to find great games for you.
I guess for me, and then after this, please provide me a new hot take. But I guess for me, it's like if you go on BGG, you're already selected into that group of people who would share similar ideas with you, because that's already one. Like that's already the hobbyist. You know, if you even know what BGG stands for, you are like a hobbyist board game enthusiast. So I would say like you're already kind of selected among other hobbyists. Is it as narrow as cardboard? Probably not, but it definitely feels like there is some kind of like uh, understanding amongst, you know, the thousands of people who go on there that this is what makes a good game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. And there is bias in just it being a BGG rating, cardboard rating, whatever it might be. It's definitely like there's proclivities. Looking at my data, though, there are definite pockets of gamers that love low interaction. There's definite pockets of gamers that love high interaction. There's pockets of gamers that loathe high interaction. There's omni gamers that like essentially everything across the board, you know, and maybe it's more of a theme, an artist, a designer, you know, there's different kind of elements that you could probably pull out there. So I think there are niches that aren't represented in top 100 lists, and they're not particularly helpful. Like Castles of Burgundy is the #1 game on cardboard. Slay the Spire is #2.
That's pretty fucking weird. I'm not gonna lie.
How weird is that? Slay the Spire is #2.
Yeah.
Now this
I wouldn't give it #2 for sure, but
this is, you know, BGG has I think 4 million users. I don't know how many reviews they have. I have probably 20,000 reviews or something like that overall. So it's a significantly smaller and recency biased sample size. Yeah. So there is that. True. But Brass isn't anywhere near that #1 spot.
Give me a hot take. Come on, let's get
All
spicy.
Right. Too much luck in a game starts to feel like an activity. This is my hot take that also nests with Candyland isn't a game. Candyland isn't a game, it's a task.
Yeah. You know, I would say like there's like luck is necessary for a game, I think, in general. Not okay, maybe I shouldn't say necessary. There's no luck in chess. But I would say it is generally a benefit to a game to have some level of luck. One of the things that people like is surprise, and people like feeling like there's good fortunes. And people like feeling like the auspicious wills of the universe have given them some kind of blessing to turn the tide. People like that feeling. So I would say luck is generally worth whatever skill expression loss there is. A game like Magical Athlete, where it's 95% luck, is I think it's a good game. But I would say it's less of a game than something like, I don't know, chess is, you know.
Define a game. I was recently challenged on this, so I'm going to challenge you. The episode's not out, but this is close to my heart right now.
No, that's a great question. I would say a game is a game has decisions that are made in order to reach a goal within the confines of a certain magical circle. That's how I would say it.
So how could you justify less and more of a game? Is it just agency is the definer?
I would say, like, let me give you an example. If you're I don't know, if your son throws a bunch of sticks on the ground and goes like, I'm gonna pick these up, time me, you know, and it takes them 30 seconds. That's a game, right? Like it is a game for them to, you know, pick up the sticks, pick up sticks. It's a goddamn game, isn't it? Yeah. But like, but I'm like, were those decisions meaningful? Were there actual like interesting choices where it could have gone a different way? Probably not as much as a game of like chess is. I think a game needs to have decision points that actually meaningfully change the outcome. Maybe that's a better way to frame it.
Yeah, for me, so I got caught by calling Flip 7 not a game. And when I looked at it, I was like, no, that's a hyperbolic take. It's a game. There is agency in that you hit or stay. That is the agency in the game. It is incredibly high luck. And for me, not fun. And then they kind of push back, well, if it's not fun for you or not fulfilling for you, does that make it any less of a game? And I was like, I didn't have a really great answer other than to say, I prefer games with more agency. A luck is a very important arbiter of excitement, but too much makes it feel like an activity rather than a game.
I think for me, Flip 7 is 100% a game. Same with a
Mhm.
game like Can't Stop. Those are games where essentially it's just, do you hit again? That's the game. But I do think those are meaningful decisions. Like there is an actual weight to that choice. And that is
But
enough
do you
to
have
define
any
it as like,
information? Like, is the level of information that you have when you say hit or stay is minimal? And you could bust immediately, unless you're a card counter, right? They, there isn't a lot of agency to making that decision. Certainly, it's an impactful decision, but the amount of information you have makes it more luck based than agency based.
what I would say to that whole situation is that a game is more of a binary existence state for whatever it might be. Like whether something's an activity or a game, I think it's kind of binary. You're like, there's not really a spectrum of what is and isn't a game to me.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, how much can you express yourself in the game, or how much agency you have in the game, or how much control you have in the game. That is maybe a quality of the game, but not necessarily a criteria of being a game. Is how I would say it. So as long as there's a decision period that can meaningfully change the outcome, it's a game, and
Is
it's 100%
Candyland a
a game.
game?
Is there a decision that meaningfully changes the outcome? No.
So the answer is no. So this was used by the designer, and they said, which I think was totally wrong. And I ended up having a great conversation with them. So no shade. Nobody knows what it is right now because it's not out yet. But they said that there's a skill test there for a child to recognize colors. I was like, well, then they're just cheating in the game if they put their meeple or whatever it is on the wrong spot. But he thought that was the skill test in Candyland was, can you recognize whether it's, I think, a double square or single square in colors?
I would disagree, because a skill test is essentially understanding the rules.
Right.
It's not necessarily and it's not the rules of the game, it's the rules of the activity. It's like a math worksheet, like, can you do 2 plus 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
I
what's
agree with
being
you.
tested.
I agree with
Yeah.
you.
So I think to make a game, to qualify it as a game, it to me is to say, yes, there needs to be a meaningful decision that impacts the outcome of what happens. Which leads, I don't know if this is on our list, but like, do you think all games are art?
Ooh. No, this isn't on the list.
I have an answer.
Let's define
I,
art. Define art for me. Let's have the proper foundation.
I don't have like an actual definition of art. I would say
Then
it's
how
probably
are
the
you going to
expression
say
of
if it's art or not?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go for it, and
Okay,
all of you.
I'll shut up. You take the floor.
No. You like let it I'll get this wrong, but I'm fine with
Okay, no, that's fine.
Correct me in the comments, please. But I would say like art is the expression of the self. So whatever expression, whatever internal self you have, as long as you express it, it is art. So for me, every game is art. Some games are good art, some games are bad art, but every game is art. That's my that would be my position.
Are there any bad games? And if it's an expression of art, is there such thing as bad art? Because art is truly subjective to the person in which that is assessing it.
Yeah, I think when I say this is a shit game, like Munchkin is a shit game or Flex is a shit game, I mean it in the sense that there's absolutely no modicum of joy or happiness or pleasure or entertainment that I have gathered from it. That these games are essentially hollow vessels of nothingness and emotionally void, besides the frustration and sadness that they bring to me. Um, that's a shit game. Does a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old who loves seeing the funny pictures and, boots a butt kicking in Munchkin, that's the best fucking game in the world to them, you know? Um, Me saying it is subjective. That's my answer. It is subjective,
Hmm.
but it's subjective in the understanding that there is something called taste, and some people have good taste, some people have bad taste. You don't have to align with my taste, but there is that thing.
I don't think many people give games credit for their art value. Do you think it's a noble expression of an artist in creating a board game design, not the obvious art associated with it?
Back in the 2010s, there was this whole discussion about it, whether video games are art or not. I think
Mm.
it's a silly discussion to have now. But the biggest counter argument that people would say is you can be bad at video games. Like you can't be bad. Excuse me. You can't be bad at seeing Guernica from Picasso. Like you see it, and then you have that art brought into your body without your input necessarily. You have an emotional response, whether that's tears or joy or anger or whatever it might be. You can't be bad at it. Whatever you express at it, that's a valid way to
But
engage
you
with
can be
it.
bad at dancing,
Uh,
and dancing is a performing art.
I would agree. You can be bad at dancing. Um, but I think the thing with games that is unique to games is that it expects um, that if you engage with it and if you fail at it, you really don't get anything out of it. I think with dancing, you can be a witness to dancing and still engage with it and still have some kind of pleasure from it. But with a game, you actually have to be the one to engage with it.
So, are all
Um,
games? You do think all games are art, though?
oh yeah, all games are art. I would think the question I would bring up, or the belief I would have, is that all games are art. Not all games are good art. And in order to engage with art, you need to be able to meet it at its terms. Um, so, like, I don't know if you play Old King's Crown. It's on my mind. Sorry, it's been on my mind the past couple weeks. If you play it and if you don't understand how to play it, you're not actually engaging with it, and the artwork essentially is not. The art of the game is essentially bypassing you. Like that's possible. Like you can have that you can miss the experience that's being intended to be given by the designer and illustrator. That's a physical failure of yourself to be able to understand the rules, but you can't feel that way when you're listening to something or when you view something, because your act of doing that is already engagement with it. So
I
you
think
can
many,
fail to engage with the game.
I think many would argue that Arcs is a masterpiece, and many would argue that Arcs is bad art. Who's correct?
Yeah, yeah, I would say, I mean, like, I'm a big Arcs fan. Like, I think that's a great fucking game. So I would say the people who say it's a great game is or have the right sensibilities to understand it in a way. But
Ooh,
uh,
that might be
yeah,
spicy.
yeah, no, but I would say like you have to meet the art at where it wants you to meet. Like
Yeah.
it's not going to come to you and hold your hand and go like, oh, like you might not like trick taking, you might not confrontational games, but we got this other alternative game mode that you'll love. Like no, that's not how art works. Like you got to understand the intention and you got to understand what they're trying to do, and then say, are they successful at that? And some games are, some games aren't, and I wouldn't say that people should discount board games as an art just because you fail to engage with them.
Yeah, I thought sort of related, but when Cole Worley was describing to me his design philosophy, which was not to tell a story, but rather to create tools that allowed players to express themselves through story, and even the way he designed arcs was in trying to simulate the ups and downs of a story, of a natural narrative, where there some turns might be big and some turns might be little, so on and so forth. And it's as if, I think if we were to ask him, he might make the argument that the players are creating the art in the story in which that they're creating as they play the game, or at least the artistry is in the story that's being created. Do you look at
Yeah,
it similarly?
I would say that's maybe half of it, because
Hmm.
like you're I would say arguably the greatest game ever made was Dune 1979, and Dune 1979 is essentially uh, uh, um, a model of interaction. That's what it is.
Mm.
Um, the game itself is pretty bare bones, but when you sit down, the richness comes from one another and the story being told. So like the art is that fact that you can sit down and create something unique and new and interesting as a group of players, but that's not possible without that initial input from the creator of the game.
The box lies. Player count and time are the most egregious lies in the industry.
Yeah, I would say that I would say board games as a whole have been trending to the philosophy of looks maxing. Generally, the better they look, the more people are willing to buy it. And I think boxes are essentially the ultimate consumer understanding of a game. Like when you walk down an alley or when you scroll on BGG or whatever, you are looking at the box before any other piece of information. A beautiful box is guaranteed more successful than something that is just beige and plain and uninteresting. When it comes to time of player count and of time and player count, sorry, people want to maximize that as far as they can so that it will capture the biggest audience, and that happens to be probably 60 to 120 minutes for a game and 1 to 4 players, and people will do whatever it takes to reach that kind of criteria.
On your box, is it going to say best at?
Best, sorry, I misheard.
So on your box for Sunlit Eulogy, instead of player count, will it say best at?
Oh, sure. The goal is that it's best at 3 to 6. So any of those three, it will likely be best at 5 to 6. I will have to make that caveat. I think I will have to say best at 5 to 6.
Will you put it on the box?
Yeah, I'll put it on the box. It doesn't
Cool.
really fear.
I think that would be awesome.
Oh,
actually,
I
would
will
love
put it
that.
on the box I will put it on the box if I believe that it's best at 5 and 6. I think it will be. We're trying our best to make it work 3 and 4. It will play pretty well at 3 and 4, but I think it'll be best at 5 and 6.
Okay, so I think that's great. I think I agree with you in that. I think there's a best player account for most games, and I think there's a naturally good player count for most games, but then there's a proclivity to have the solo mode in there and also engineer it for 2-player as well. And as much as I hate, I wouldn't say hate, as much as I'm a little curious about this epidemic of dual games, I can respect that there's a player count associated that says, hey, we're not trying to be anything else but a game that's specifically for 2 people. I actually admire that quite considerably.
I have no issue with that. I think there is a market for 2 players. There's a market for single players. And some games can truly play well with 1 to 4 players. Those games exist. But generally when it's on the box, I'm skeptical towards 1 and 2 players, to be honest.
Complexity is a limiting factor for 90% of players.
I would say, like, I'm not going to say this is the spiciest take ever, but I would say, like, people want to play things they can play. It's pretty simple. You don't want to play things that are going to give you a nightmare to interact with it. So everyone has a complexity limit. I tried playing PAX Renaissance 2nd edition, and I played it for about maybe, 4 hours. And I was like, this is fucking nuts. I don't think I like this. Could have I kept my head down another 4 hours and understood all the systems? Probably. But my brain was hurting. I was tired. I was like, I don't want to play this anymore. So it limits me. I think it limits everyone.
What was I saying? BGG weight conflates 2 very different things, which is complexity and rules overhead. How do you think about those 2, and are they interchangeable?
Yeah, I would say complexity is essentially everything you need to understand to operate and play the game at the way it wants you to play it. So there isn't much of a discrepancy between the 2, but I would love to hear what you think the difference is.
Yes, the way I define complexity is essentially when you're making a decision, how many different dimensions is that decision affecting? So how many different layers to the game might that decision actually have an impact on? To me, that is the complexity. Is like the number of systems in which a user is interacting with. Rules overhead, on the other hand, there's a wide variety, and you can get high complexity, for example, with chess that has a very low rules overhead. You also get high depth as well. It's one of the best ROI on rules overheads that you can get. A lot of um, abstract games, there's pretty decent depth because there a lot of times it's asking you to match up, or complexity, because Calico is a really good example. There's like 3 or 4 different dimensions that you're interacting with when you place a particular tile, but the rules overhead is actually really low. The weight, a lot of people, because the rules overhead is so low, they're not saying it's a particularly weighty game, but they might describe it as crunchy. So I think a lot of that starts to conflate with one another. And I think there's examples of high rules overhead, high complex games. Like, a Lacerda game might be one of those that are easily described as a heavy weight, and it's not conflating anything, because both of those things are true.
I would say we're just at a definitional crossroads,
Mm,
because the way you define complexity is more akin to how I would define depth. So I
mm,
think, it's not so much that we disagree on the ideas behind it, but I do think the words are essentially defined differently for both of us. Uh,
yeah. Yeah, depth is
yeah.
also another interesting one in which I've wrestled with a bit, because depth to me is essentially the number of different strategies that will allow you, and this is at a higher level definition, that will allow you to win the game. It's essentially the output is replayability, um, but the actual inputs to depth are different ways to play the game. Um, that's why interaction is a really high indication of depth as well, because it creates dynamic play states that almost infinitely, depending on the game, will create new ways to play it, and have to change that particular strategy mid game. So that's where I look at it a little bit a little bit differently. Complexity sometimes is not necessarily directly related to the amount of depth. It could just be a bad design. Complexity could be an output of an inefficient design where they're adding
Mhm.
rules to a game where they couldn't solve the design problem more elegantly and pull back. Instead, they just added a new design, or a new rule. And a lot of
You,
designers I've talked to talk a lot about that.
yeah, I think to me, like depth is essentially your definition of complexity plus your definition of depth put together. Like
Mm,
that's depth for me. It's kind of the compounding of all the possible variables and strategies, and how deep you want to get into a game is the depth.
mhm.
Or how deep you physically, like mentally, can reach into it before it kind of reaches a wall. That's depth for me.
So, but are in your definitions, are depth and complexity similar, or interlinked?
No, 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 no. Complexity and depth are completely.
Okay.
There's no overlap between the two. Complexity is purely the mechanical understanding that you need to know to actually physically engage with the game at its terms, while depth is how deep. That's circular. How much you can actually go into a game before you reach its strategical limits.
Okay. Okay. So I think my next one was discovery is 90% is a game for 90% of the people that we've already touched on. Camel Up, we've touched on briefly, but it's the best level 1 complexity game on the planet. There's nothing else that comes close.
Like we talked about, Camel Up is essentially maximum joy for minimum effort. That's what it is. So if someone was like, "What's a good time? I want to go to my family with a fun game," I'd be like, "Take Camel Up." That's how I would define it, as the best, essentially, best game of all time in a way.
Secret Hitler is a watered down Avalon dressed in politics. The elements, essentially, you say the elements don't allow you to get good at the game. My argument might be, I'd argue that Social Hitler isn't about um, getting good; it's about creating a story.
Okay, yeah. So, Secret Hitler is probably the take I've gotten the most heat on through
Oh, really?
emails. Yeah, the most kind of, I would say, disagreement with me, but I still stand by this. But Secret Hitler, like you said, it's a narrative game. It's not actually a strategical game. The entire premise is essentially it wants to build up intention so that the final decisions feel meaningful, important, dramatic, but the actual gameplay is practically decided for you. The shuffling of the two policy decks, or sorry, the one policy deck with the two different types, it essentially creates a rubber band wherein you're guaranteed to reach a certain state of the game where there's tension between both sides. Is it a game? Yes, it's a game. Is it a good game? Not to me.
I actually played it for the first time at Dice Tower West, and I had an absolute blast. Although I also played Coup at the same time for the very first time, and really social deduction in general, I hadn't played a lot of until very recently. And is my palette just not defined yet?
So I would say Secret Hitler to me is essentially social deduction at its most baby. It's a baby game.
Mhm.
It's a game that holds your hand.
I like that.
It is. Yeah, it's a game that will hold you and guarantee that you're going to have a good time. But play Secret Hitler 20 times and you're going to realize you're reaching the same state almost every single time. And that state is essentially a close match. That's the idea. It wants a close match.
Mhm.
Higher variability games like Avalon or Quest. Quest is an excellent game. Essentially don't guarantee that. You're going to have more agency, but it also means you're going to fall flat more often because it's not holding your hand. Have you played Blood on the Clock Tower? Because I would say that's
No, I
really the
haven't.
ultimate. Yeah. So in Blood on the Clock Tower, it also wants you to reach the final state of the game, but that's done through the agency of essentially the GM. So whoever is in charge, their obligation is to create an interesting story. It's There's still strategy, there's still decisions to make, but it's all influenced by the player in control. Social deduction, I find essentially there's a school of like, we want to have a really good time, just want to laugh, we want to make accusations, and even if it doesn't have meaningful information, we just want to have a good time. Versus people who sit down and they go like, I want to break down every single possible permutation and every single combination of who could be who, and then kind of find a logic behind it. Secret Hitler is definitely the first one. It's kind of
Right.
the standard bearer of that.
I will say Secret Hitler, it occurred to me it was always significantly more fun being a fascist or Hitler. It was
Yeah,
it's just it's more fun being deceptive than trying to figure it out.
I think it's a person to person thing. Like, I enjoy both, but I just think it's a bad game. That's where it comes down to.
FOMO. The board game industry is actively engineered to feed FOMO and make you buy just in case.
Yeah, I fucking hate FOMO. I absolutely detest it. I think it's one of the most, maybe the sin of our decade. The 2020s is a decade of FOMO, whether that's cryptocurrencies, NFTs, playing with options in the stock market. All of that to me is a symptom of, score big or go home. And I think it's a system that feeds on our worst attributes as humans in a way. I think board game industry as a whole has kind of tapped into that, where it's only like Kickstarter editions, or it's you buy now or you're never going to get, or there's these extra add-ons, or these extra perks of being the ones to back this campaign, and I'm simply against that. I think it's not a good way to operate a business, even if it produces more profit.
I would probably argue, though, that this has been around in all other industries forever. And even when the snake oil salesman was, on the cobblestone corner yelling at the group of 10 people about how this particular snake oil is limited and will cure every single ailment, he was using FOMO to sell those goods.
Yeah, but don't you think that's fucked up, man? Like, come on.
I'm
Like,
not saying it's bad.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's not a board game thing. It's
No, of course it's not a board game thing. It's not, but it's
Nike
fucked.
as an example. Yes, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it's the way the world works. Nike uses it,
Yeah.
and they pull back on production just to create a sense of FOMO, so sneakers could run out at the actual store. Like, this is just the way the world works.
No, it's the way the world works. But like, I 15 years ago, when I look at campaigns, I'm like, these campaigns were like fucking like generous, or like at least fairly understated in what they were trying to sell you on FOMO. And then you look at these massive Kickstarter or GameFound campaigns nowadays, and you're like, holy fuck, this scroll literally will go on for 20 or 30 minutes if you decide to go all the way to the bottom.
Yeah.
I'm like, who the fuck actually scrolls all the way to the bottom of a GameFound campaign?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like
I'm in agreement with
the
you.
Grasp one. Yeah, and
I
I'm
hate
like,
the fact that
fuck, man.
we're essentially manipulated into giving an interest-free loan and billed as somehow saving money or getting the thing that nobody will ever be able to get. All of it feels bad, and when you don't get the top pledge, you feel bad because you're possibly missing out on something. When you don't get it at all, you feel bad. When you get the top pledge, you also feel bad because you just spent $599 on the Don't Starve campaign. I think it all kind of sucks. And
I
but
guess
we still do it though, supply and demand. You know, people have agency to make those decisions, right?
people absolutely have agency, and it's not something I would say is like 100% on the fault of the producer or the manufacturer or the publisher. It's also the fault of us for accommodating and willing to cash out on this. Absolutely. But I would say that at its core of core, consumers need to be treated with a certain level of respect and a certain level of value proposition. And I don't see these value propositions besides the fact that if you don't get it now, you're never going to get it. That's the value proposition being sold.
I agree with
Yeah.
you. I feel like I sometimes look at these campaigns and I'm just dumbfounded that we're paying more than a PS5 for a box of cardboard that has
Dude, that's what I'm
infinite
saying. And
play.
I would say like the idea that the interest-free loan, that one, I'm like a little bit less. Maybe I'm a little bit more lenient on, because a lot of the best games are essentially funded by the Kickstarter and
Yeah.
GameFound campaign to exist, and I think that's their original purpose. That's
No,
actually
I
the
agree with
function
that.
of
That's
these
good.
crowdfund.
It's a
Yeah.
good thing, but it's abused, which I think is your point as
Oh,
well.
it's Yeah, no, it's abuse for sure. And I think like the moment I see a an all-in edition that's $3.99 or $4.99 or $5.99, I'm like, some poor fucker is gonna get the worst fucking game, and they spent $400 on that. You know, like I'm like, nobody nobody plays um like the Dark Souls game. Nobody plays that for fun. The
No,
Dark Souls games fucking
it's
suck.
true. Yeah.
Like, I'm like, why would you spend hundreds of dollars on this piece of shit? And like this Rainbow Six, I don't the you know the one. I'm sorry, the publisher escapes my name, but I'm like, it's been in development hell for years, and it's not gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be a good game. I don't have it, but I have this inclination it's gonna suck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't, but I am dumbfounded as to why it keeps as long as people keep buying it, it's going to keep happening, right? And there's
We're
more
in this
competition
K-shaped
than ever.
economy, you know. We're in the K-shaped economy where essentially anyone with money is like, where the fuck can I spend my money? And then the people without any money are like, why the fuck is this game $500? Like, you know, and
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. How did we get
I
there?
buy.
That's one of the
Oh,
biggest
how do we get?
scams of all time. To a $500 game literally costs more than a fucking PS5. Like I don't understand
Yeah,
how
no,
that's
it is.
ever
It's
justified.
Dude, it's fucked up. It's honestly fucked up. There's no situation where a game should cost $500 unless it's literally like a decade of effort put into it to make it what it is. Like I'm sure, you know, when you put all my root expansions together, it's at least 350, right? But
Mhm.
that's like the game itself is like $60. But once you add in everything, it adds on.
The old expansion. Well, let's dive into that. So recently, I started playing Layers. I'm sure you wouldn't like it, but it's a
Yeah.
fun. It's like you build a dungeon and somebody else essentially says go up, go down, and they try to get through your dungeon. You're doing the same thing at the same time. I actually thought it was a blast. Had fun with it. However, I will probably rate it a 5 out of 10. I think it's an atrocity because they give you hardly any content. It's a great price point at $49, but if you actually want the full game that was offered on Kickstarter, you have to spend an additional $70 to actually get all the content that would actually make creating all of these dungeons super interesting. And it drives me insane, and I know it does you as well, when there are expansions out of the gates on a freaking game. It just give me the game as it should be played.
If I ever do that with my publisher, Dear Euthyphro, tell me, clip this, send it to me, and I will look back at my past self disappointed. Like I will be disappointed in myself, you know. Like I'm like it actually gives me like actual disgust thinking that that's a possibility.
What is the
Like
expansion
yeah.
for? Like, what should an expansion be for? And is there ever a justification to have it come out with the base game?
You know, I think I always go back to like Root is a great example because Root had the first expansion included in the Kickstarter if they reached a certain funding goal, but it was never charged for. It was included, It was part of the package of back in the game. And I think that's the ideal way to do it. If you're going to provide extra content, it's not charged as a separate, it's just part of the game as a success of the game.
Crowdfunding now makes more sterile games. So games like Zombicide can essentially have unlimited content to sell to you. Is that true?
Yeah, I would say crowdfunding essentially is it's based off hype and it's based off the necessity of want. But I would say the sterile game idea. Yeah, I did critique this in one of my videos, but essentially, um, Zombicide to me is flavorless. Like the core game is essentially like the most generic, uninteresting kind of gameplay, and then you just stack things on until it appeals to you by some uh, cross market appeal. Like, I think there's a DC or a Marvel Zombicide. I can't remember which one now. There's, Zombicide, White Death or White Plague or something like that. And you just keep stacking things on until you find something you like. And then the person's like, oh, I like Danny Trejo. Let me buy Zombicide so I can play as Danny Trejo. And I'm like, I mean, it's just functionless or formless. There's no interest in mechanics behind it. It's just like, here's product after product after product. And it's like Funko Pops. It's like you're collecting Funko Pops with your goddamn board games. And I'm like, I don't want to collect any more Funko Pops for this fucking board game. Like that's how I feel.
Does crowdfunding make games better anymore, or net? It's a it's no longer serving the positive purpose. Yes.
No, I can't make my game without crowdfunding. So obviously there's a purpose to it that I see value in. I'm sick of these fucking like endless scrolls and $500 games. Those are the ones that make me feel like people are being taken advantage of for whatever fucking situation that they might be applying.
Spreadsheet games. Earth is a beautiful theme stapled on disconnected math. Every path gets you to 75% optimal regardless of effort. I made a critique not as nuanced as yours, but I said everything's special, so nothing feels special. It didn't matter what I did in that game. I got points poured on me. Defend
yeah,
it.
Earth to me is like the ultimate ultimate feel good game. Like you are going to find success in Earth no matter what you do. And anytime anyone interacts, you're going to find something to do. You're going to find some fucking little tree to plant, some fucking things to sprout, some water to get, to fucking do whatever you want, to get some fucking cards. You're going to feel like you're going to progress in the game no matter what you do. And to me, the feeling of progress without any kind of counterbalance to any kind of like feeling of impediments, it's ultimately hollow. It feels like there's no actual thought being put into my actions as much as there is just actions being taken for the sake of an action being taken to hit my little dopamine in my head. And then I walk away feeling like, oh, I did something with my little fucking Sahara desert and I put fucking bamboo leaves in here and now I feel good because I have this environment. It's just literally it's numbers in a spreadsheet that you're just playing with until you get an output that makes you feel good. And to me, that's not really an enjoyable experience.
I wondered why it makes people feel so good. Like why that game is, I wouldn't call it universally loved. I think there's similar critiques out there to both yours and mine, because it's clearly a dopamine machine, but it gives you so much and overwhelms you so much. Nothing feels like I'm doing something that, nothing makes me feel smart in that game. And I like to feel smart when I'm making decisions in games. It's like literally I can just point my finger at something and just do it and probably get to 75% optimal regardless of effort. I wondered, am I just not smart enough, or did I just not play it enough? Where there's some meta game in there that I just don't understand, but it just felt like less should be more in this instance. It's a perfect example of that.
Yeah, I think with Earth in particular, I would say like you can play that game and perfect it. You can absolutely become the best Earth player that takes the most optimized path every single time. But if I don't try, if I just play the game as a casual enjoyer, holy shit, as a casual enjoyer, I'm gonna get there about 70%, and that's good enough. I don't have that urge to be that 100% with maximum thought as with zero thought 70%. So it's just not like it is a dopamine drip. It is just like, like how fast can I get this board game into my arm to give me some
Yeah, yeah.
sort of pleasure? Like
Yeah.
that's what Earth is. And
Yeah.
it's hollow to me. It's like eating gummy bears for dinner. I fucking love gummy bears, but like I'm gonna feel like I've disgusting slob afterwards.
Oh, you're not supposed to eat those for dinner? Fuck.
Dude, I'm fucking addicted to them. I have my Haribo right
What's
next
the
to
best
me.
gummy bear?
I like Haribo because it's cheap and it's but like
There's a
in
little
terms of
like
flavor,
tough. Don't you think like they're a little too chewy?
they're a little chewy, but like I respect the struggle to get to them.
Okay.
Like you
Well, yeah,
gotta,
they make you burn a few extra calories trying to get those
oh
things
yeah,
down.
you gotta really chew things down. Yeah,
Unless you
yeah.
take them like a pill.
That's fuck, man. You're disgusting me right now.
Yeah. Okay. Looks max. We talked a little bit about this, but looks maxing as a game priority. Do you feel like that is on the is a priority for most publishers? And I will caveat that with saying I just interviewed the social media manager for Bezier Games, Jay from Cardboard East, and he said the absolute number one most important thing is your box cover, and I was appalled.
Comes to looks maxing and kind of the idea of the box being the most presentable or the most important thing. I hate it, but I think it's true. I wouldn't say like the box itself is the most important, but I would say the general aesthetic is the single most important thing for a game success. Like if I was actually talking to my buddies about this, and I was like, if the Old King's Crown, if every game looks like the Old King's Crown, like there would be so many more 10 out of 10s out there. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, that game fucking looks like a mind-bendingly good. Like I'm like, holy fuck! Like how much effort, how many tears, like how many arguments did he have with his spouse? I don't fucking know. Like if he had, like how many countless nights did he have to suffer for making something like this? Like one fucking guy. I'm like, this guy is fucking crazy. Like in the best way, like as like a true like savant of his game craft, like that game looks incredible. But there's some ugly ass games out there. And if each game looked like that game, there would be more 10s out of 10s out there, and there would be more, multi-million dollar campaigns.
But wouldn't it be diluted if everything looked good? Nothing would look good. I think we might then go, like reverse or digress to the, the shitty looking stuff and be like, oh, I really miss those beige games.
Nobody misses fucking beige games, dude. I'm sorry. Nobody misses a beige game. But what I would say is like there would be a general trend for 10 out of 10s or like higher reviewed games, because I think deep down in us, in our souls, we appreciate beautiful things. Like even if we don't want to admit it, like we try to separate the mechanics from the art and all of this kind of trying to be better than just one aspect of the game. But I think the looks are the single most important thing that kind of transcend the gameplay in a way.
Are you investing heavily in art on your game?
Yeah, so we've spent roughly about $12,000-ish, give or take, so far on art, roughly, including graphic design and everything. To finish it, I would probably need about another 12 to 13,000, give or take, to get each card, a custom artwork. So that's kind of priced in. $25,000 for art is not that expensive. It's kind of like, a pretty reasonable level. But if I was to get $500,000 in funding, I want to spend, $100,000 in art, like I want to like just like iron that to like mentally absurd levels, that would be the number one priority.
Yeah, I agree. I'm dumbfounded that there's any games that don't have an interesting theme and great art anymore. Like it just like, why would you waste your time and putting a product out there that is going to get lost because there's just such incredible looking productions?
I would say you're right that only the niche kind of like super indie, like you have your own kind of marketing streams, those games can afford to be kind of a gross looking, to be honest. But they have their own like
they have a charm. There's a charm there for that.
Yeah. I would say there are games that I would say are ugly games that are good games, but it's less and less and less and less.
Yeah. Well, it really, like when I see pasted on themes and shitty art from like giant companies that can afford it. I'm just like, what do you do? They're clearly just trying to pump out as many games as possible and not spending a lot. Really just kind of the shotgun approach, hoping
What's your
something sticks.
opinion on the Awaken? Holy shit, I can't talk.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask you about
Awaken
this.
Realms. No, it's your turn. It's your turn. You're up first.
No, well, no, I was going to say,
I got
why
strong opinions on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I really love craftsmanship and artistry, and I think there is a novelty knowing a human did it. Whether we get to a point in which AI completely, fools us, that's going to suck, and I think there probably will. I think artists will always disagree with that, but I think it's probably going to get to a point where it's going to start to produce some pretty compelling images, but I will always be willing to pay for the novelty of a human that produced something.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah.
So why don't you just save a ton of money and put it into Nano Banana on Gemini and create a bunch of cool cards?
Yeah, there's two primary reasons. The first one is I think AI art is cringe generally. Like, when I see it,
Yeah.
I'm like, I kind of cringe. And the second one is I think it's an indicator of quality. It's when someone sees it, they think less effort has been put into it because probably there was less effort put into it. So that doesn't necessarily 100% true every time, because you can have a fully AI art game that's a fucking masterpiece from a gameplay perspective.
Yeah.
But I would say it's an indicator to the mass market, whether or not this is a quality product. And I really like my artists. I have a couple, and my primary artist, he's a lovely guy, and I have no his ideas only improve the game, I would say.
Yeah, I have been interested to see how talking to some other designers about their relationships with the artists and how much they do collaborate and really talk about the design with the artist and go back and forth. I think that relationship just kind of depends on who it is. But it is, I never really thought of it like that. I always thought like a designer or even a publisher would be like, hey, go make this. But I like that there is a collaboration and allowing people to kind of, truly make art rather than making prints of whatever somebody's telling them to make.
Yeah, I mean, like I knew I wanted some kind of faith healer disciple, someone to wander around healing.
Right.
And he was like, "Hey, let's go on a mushroom, like let's make him a mushroom." And then from there, the whole idea of like the mushroom as like a fungi and kind of like as a almost consuming flesh to grow kind of influenced the gameplay of that character. So we were like, it kind of like came from the art, I would say, almost. Like I knew the general concept, but the specifics came from the art.
So you're a good looking guy. Are you bone smashing? Speaking of look maxing?
No. I'm too old for the looks maxing, but I think it's fucking hilarious. I fucking think it's the funniest shit.
I've wasted way too much time watching videos of those idiots. And I've honestly had like talks with my oldest son. It's like, dude, you're not really like, I hope you don't watch clavicular is if you in case you want to fall down the craziest rabbit hole that you never thought would ever exist. Go look up look maxing and clavicular and watch how that piece of shit treats people, number one, and what he does to himself to appear better looking, including hitting himself with a hammer in the face to like smash bones and reconstruct their own faces.
It is a form of extremism of like, so what I see, just in aesthetics in general, even board games aesthetics, it's like we subconsciously acknowledge attractive anything to be better. If it's a good looking car, if it's a good looking board game, if it's a good looking person, if it's a good looking camera,
it's an indication of quality, like you said.
Exactly. So I understand it from the publisher's perspective to prioritize that as a value. It's people aren't going to play the game, but they're going to look at the box, right? Like people will eventually, thousands and thousands of people will look at that cover art, and if that's the only indicator of quality they have, it has to be a good one. But then you look at 2007's Hamburgum, that's a fucking beige ass game. And I look at it now, I'm like, holy fuck, that's a beige ass game. Like, that game would never fucking last in this market. It just wouldn't do. And I would say it's a societal thing overall. Like we prioritize the aesthetic as that first impression, and then we attribute qualities that it might not necessarily have. They call it the halo effect, I think, the looks maxers.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe don't do that if you're listening. It will definitely eat some brain cells, but it is quite the fun dive into the cesspool of the internet. All right. Oh, creator's dilemma. We talked a little bit about this already, but making money off of board game YouTube and how to keep your integrity. Can you keep your integrity and make money other than, well, I guess even ads? Like, you made money off of ads on your videos. Like, is there a moral dilemma
Yeah,
there?
no, absolutely. So I make roughly $1,000 Canadian per month on my YouTube channel, roughly, give or take. Depends on the month. If I have a bumper month, that's great. The way I kind of see it is that um, money as a primary motivator will lead to failure. Like, if you are into this for money, you are going to fail, because people can smell that, people can detect that, and to be honest, I think those are the people that are kind of ridiculed out of essentially the board game world, or any world really. It's something we have a disgust for. So I think if you want to keep integrity, like have niche, start with niche appeal, be open. If you do take sponsorships or anything like that, like, it has to be explicitly said, like, this is a review copy, or I got this as a sponsored content, and not just like in the comment box. It has to be like, explicit, like, a 10-second, like, I wish, my wish and like my prayer is like, if someone's like, I got this as a sponsored video, they paid me $550 to do this, like, that would be my ideal. um
No, I agree with you that
I,
on that.
yeah.
I want, so I'm creating and have created a transparency tracker for creators on Cardboard, where you say if you've either taken money or copies from specific publishers, and you can literally go and look that up with me right now. I've not taken money from anybody, but I've taken copies, and you'll see every single publisher that I've ever taken a copy from. I do think exposing how much you've actually made might be important. I mean, it exposes you for criticism even more. People use that against you, but I guess in this, for the sake of transparency, I'm all for it for sure.
I think, revealing your income is, when people have trust in you to provide like an unbiased account on something, to reveal it is an indicator that you're willing to put yourself out there and to essentially earn the trust of your audience. So I don't see it as a downside. All I see it as is um, like you want people to essentially believe that you are able to communicate your opinions without bias, and a part of that is explaining where your conflicts of interest could arise from. um, for me personally, I don't really give a shit like if you sell your games after you get them from a publisher. I don't really give a fuck if, like, you say, I got $5,000 from this and I'm giving this a 10 out of 10. I just more or less want to know if you do it. I don't really care if you do or don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just don't hold value to what anyone says on the internet about a game. I'm more interested in, like,
Sure.
what is the game? What are the hooks? What's the mechanics? Give me some visuals. What's the art? I need to know what the game is. I get more value out of a playthrough rather than what somebody is telling me. That's one of the reasons I created Cardboard, because I have this deep belief that um, there's value in people that play games like you, but there's no value
Mhm.
in what somebody says that hates games that you love, as an
So
example. So
maybe a tangent, and I'm sorry for your
that's
time.
fine.
But um, do you not like BGG? Just out of curiosity, like
No, I'm
what would
neutral.
you
I'm
say
fine.
is like
I'm fine on BGG.
yeah, yeah.
I just think that the reason I created Cardboard wasn't anti BGG at all. It was just, I just had some cool ideas, and I knew my job
Yeah.
was coming to an end likely. So I thought, let's try a new skill and see if I can kind of like employ some of those ideas to see if they make a difference at all.
Yeah, fair, yeah, yeah. I do
Go ahead.
think there should be a BGG competitor out there. Like, that would be nice.
Yeah, yeah, oh, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of people that, like, care a lot about like their censorship and their which I don't censor people. I just bad actors I'll ban. They're trying to like mess with the platform. Otherwise, like, you know, I'm creating a system now where you just block people and you don't ever have to see what they have to say again. A lot of people will say like, oh, they have like this monopoly on the market. It's like, well, it's not really much of a market, number one. So I'm not particularly like, you know, hurt about that. Go ahead. You have something to say?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say like I think it's like the ultimate resource, but I don't engage with it on a social level. You know what I mean?
No.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with
like I
that.
don't.
It is.
Yeah,
It's the Wikipedia of board games for sure.
exactly. Yeah,
For sure. Okay. Let's see. We only have a couple more. You talked a little bit about this, but I think it deserves a little more depth. How important is the person making the game, and what do you mean by that?
yeah. I think it's a consequence of like how much did that individual put into the game, and how much do you need to understand that individual's philosophy, or at least their like approach to the game to actually get something out of the game. For me, it's like I don't really care about who makes the game if it's an interesting game. But then on the other hand, I'm like, uh, a lot of these more weird or esoteric games are essentially a statement based off the individual who actually uh, created it. It's almost like a political piece, or a piece of the individual that is being manifested into game form. I actually struggle with this. This is something I'm like keeping me up at night. Where I'm like, uh, do I need to understand? Let me go through this. Phil Eklund is a fucking idiot for some of his political beliefs, and his anti uh, 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 climate change positions, that man-made climate change isn't real, I believe, and also his essay on British imperialism that was in the first PAX premiere, if I remember correctly. Those are fucking idiotic things to say, and I disagree with them vehemently. But he's a fucking genius when it comes to game design. Like, he might be like one of the greatest minds of game design of our time. So can I play a Phil Eklund game without understanding his personal belief system, and essentially take what the game gives to me without considering his beliefs? Or do I have to incorporate his beliefs into the game? I struggle with this.
Hmm. Well, I mean, this is just about, I mean, I think it's totally valid to say I don't want to support somebody that I don't necessarily like agree with.
Total, totally valid. But does the game itself change if I knew about Phil Eklund or not?
I don't think so. What do you mean, does
That's
it
the question.
change?
Does your interpretation of what the game means change? Like, does my game change if
I
Phil
mean,
Eklund?
I think you are in the upper echelon, the 1% of the 1% of people that think that deeply about game meaning. So I think that's
Yeah,
mostly moot.
I would say for the 99.9% of people, I agree. This doesn't matter. Like, PAX Renaissance or High Frontier is the
Mhm.
same game, whether or not they know of Phil Eklund's existence. But does it matter? That's my question. I think, when you ask people on, I don't know, a fucking blue sky, they're going to say absolutely it matters. If you ask people, face to face, they're going to say, no, you got to learn, that it's a little different. And like, it's a different kind of, I would say there's a divide socially about whether or not Phil Eklund actually matters if I play fucking PAX Renaissance, and I think, like, he probably has made some fantastic designs, but he's not like a person I look up to. So, like, does that matter? That's my question. I don't have an answer to this, and that's what I'm struggling with.
So if it mattered, what outcome would that have? You just not playing the games?
I think there's two outcomes. Either you don't play it, or you have a different understanding of the game after you play it. So,
Mm.
PAX Renaissance is about the bankers, and how they kind of influence religious uprisings and politics, and dynasties between different kings and queens, and all of the royal family. And I'm like, if you play that game without any understanding of Phil Eklund as a person, you might get something different than if you do understand him. And in a way, I'm like, I wish I didn't know, so that I didn't have to think about this. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
yeah, like I wish I didn't know that Phil Eklund had these certain, beliefs, because I think PAX Renaissance, like, it's a fucking nightmare to play, but there's probably like actual genius behind it in a way.
Yeah, I think that critique comes up with John Company and Cole Worley, and when you don't understand his academic background around studying workers' rights, and I won't do it justice now, but go look it up. I think like the colonialism themes that he plays with can be seen upon as I don't know, making either light of it or I'm losing the word now.
It's almost like abstracted that's too playful, you would say. 'Cause
Right. Well,
I'll be honest, I haven't
go ahead. No, go
I
ahead.
haven't played John Company's second edition yet. It's on my pre-order, but I haven't played it yet. So
Yeah, I mean, but I think if you, to your point though, if you understand that he's coming to it from a historian and academic background and exploring the history and those ideas, it becomes something different. It's not glorifying colonialism; it's helping you to understand the effects of such. So I think in that instance, knowing the person would matter. Certainly, especially if you have problems ethically with playing something that deals with themes like John Company Second Edition does.
I guess my question is, should I care about the creator of Camel Up? Because I don't know who made Camel Up. I can't name the person, like
probably not.
But like, but my question is, if I knew the person, does it change the game? Because we were saying it does might. For some games.
Oh, it might. Well, and also if you know someone personally, you might just tend like there's implicit bias that you might just be like, oh my gosh, I am so. As much as if you were just to pick up Camel Up, or Camel Up's probably a bad example, but just a random game you played
Camel
it.
Up is the best fucking example. Man.
Yeah, okay. Well, maybe you just randomly played this shitty little game and say, oh, it's a 6 out of 10. But if your friend made it, maybe it's that much more impressive because you know that person. You're like, wow, you actually created this. You created something, whatever it might be. You might actually, you might view it and more positively, just naturally, just because you knew that person. So maybe it does matter.
Yeah, so then in a way you would agree that, or not, I don't even know if I necessarily agree, but you would say that it does matter the individual, that's the thing that's real. And for me personally, like a religious game, like do people need to understand like what I'm trying to say, or do I just want people to enjoy it for what it is? And like I'm leaning towards just enjoying it for what it is, and I'll put a little blurb in the instruction book about what the idea was. Like that's kind of where I'm kind of saying at it, because I don't really
well, the very first, depending on the theme that you're working with, I mean, the medium that you're working with is something that's, I think couldn't easily be called controversial, depending on who it is. I don't know how you've implemented it, and I don't understand. Like, there's probably ways you can build that game that definitely pushes a particular perspective about how religious doctrines are created and passed down through history. So I guess it'll depend on how I play it, and what what it ends up being, less about what you say it was meant to do.
One of the things about being, I'm sure you've suffered from this as well, but as a YouTube creator, like once you have your video out there, it's interpreted in ways that you might not intend. And like, I kind of celebrate that almost as if it's like out of my hands, and like whatever it is, and I almost feel like I shouldn't comment on something that people are interpreting, because it's kind of like it's their right to see it as their piece of as their interpretation. So for the game itself, I'm like, I really don't want to get too like, I don't want to impose my beliefs or my structures or my identity into the game, but it will happen anyways. Yeah. So how much do people need to understand about that? That's how
it depends on what you did with it. I think that's, are you trying to make a statement? Whether it's up to somebody to, I mean, it's not explicitly is still kind of yes. unless you say like, no. I just think it's very interesting. This dynamic throughout history. But you clearly, and I'm not asking for a reason, have an opinion about how religious doctrines have been created. What that opinion is, I have no idea.
I think the thing is, like, I care more about people thinking about like the process of religion being created. That's what I care about. I don't care about what the end result is necessarily. Like, I don't care about like the morality of religious doctrine. I care about how it's been implemented and created and used as a tool. That's what I care about. And like, I don't want to convince anyone of some grander like belief or structure or political opinion. I want them to have a good time first of all. That's like number one priority. And then number two is like, hey, if you walk away from this going like, oh, That's interesting. You know, religious doctrine is conflicting and sometimes difficult to assess, and sometimes it's used to essentially create a mechanism of implementation in the real world. Like that's what I care about. Anyway, sorry,
No, that's good.
I'm just rambling.
No,
This was
I
a
think
hot
that's
take.
good.
This was a hot take that I didn't have an opinion cemented on. It was more just like I want to like see what people leave in the comments. You know, leave me angry messages or whatever, because like I don't really have like if Phil Eklund emailed me after this interview and was like, "Hey, dude, I want to test your game." Do I have that? Like, am I allowed to? I don't know. Like, you know, like it's like a gray area for me.
Yeah, I have to educate myself on Phil. I don't really know much about him, but I would say it probably does matter. The way I was looking at this was, does it matter for possible correlation with your enjoyment? And because designers tend to have proclivities to certain types of designs and such, that's where I thought you were going with it. I didn't know it was kind of deeper from like who is that person? What are their intentions in creating? Um, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, you know, after you watch an interview with someone, right? Like you kind of gain an insight into their being, right? And I'm like, I in some level, I've never spoken to Cole Rurley ever in my life. You know, I've never interacted with him, but I have an understanding of him, and that changes my interpretation of the game that I play, right? But I don't have that understanding for the guy who made Unfathomable or Twilight Imperium or Heat. You know, like I'm just listing games on my wall. Like
Mm.
I don't have that. And like, does that change the game for me? And like, does it matter? You
Well,
know,
after
that's what my question
speaking
is.
to Cole, I have a more appreciation about his designs after trying to understand more where he's coming from in creating, what are his motivations, what are his goals when he creates, what's his process, so on and so forth. I definitely have a better understanding and appreciation for his work. But I was already a fan
Mhm.
before, so it's tough. Like I don't know if that would always be the case. It has been the case with other designers as well, but not as much. Cole's also just like this brilliant guy, really fun to talk to. Not to say that other designers aren't, but he's different. That's it.
Next
That's
hot take.
all the spicy takes.
Oh, that's all of them.
Are
We
there
did.
any other spicy takes out there? The last one was, is there such a thing as a bad game? I think we talked about that. That's it. And I can't wait to count all of these up so I can have some really huge number and clickbait title and thumbnail to
Oh,
get hundreds
you,
of thousands of views.
you know, I hope the best for you. You know, like, um, I did have a question, or maybe a
Yeah.
challenge. How about that?
Okay,
Let's see.
sure. I don't know if I'm going to
Um,
accept it, but you're welcome to challenge.
uh, okay. This is a challenge. Okay. Um, so I really, really like designing thumbnails. Like that's a huge
Mm.
like love of the business. Okay. Do you have access to the ABC testing or not?
Yeah. Hmm.
Are you okay if I design one of the three thumbnails
Oh, yeah, for
and then
sure.
we put it in and then we see which one is most successful?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds fun.
Yeah. No,
Yeah. Because I was like,
I probably would have used and cannibalized your style for this
yeah.
particular video anyways. So you doing it would be even better.
Okay. That sounds like a um, fun little project for me
Yeah.
tonight.
I used to spend a ton of time on thumbnails and tons of time in Photoshop and such. And sometimes they would matter, sometimes they wouldn't. I've had the A/B testing for a while. And I was always a little bit frustrated on the ones that I really liked. I was like, oh, that just didn't do well. That pisses me off. It would make me
You
more
know,
mad than anything.
I think thumbnails are like an art of itself, and I'm
Oh
like
yeah, they are.
trying to perfect it. You know what I mean? And I'm like, it's looks maxing. We're looks maxing again. You know,
Oh,
it all comes back to that.
100%. And there's like trends in it, right? Like the hyper realism. Now
Oh yeah.
everyone can do with AI, so it doesn't take you 3 hours in Photoshop any longer to get that look. So now those aren't novel any longer. So now it's back to like more grounded, realistic stuff. That's now the new
But you know,
trend.
I
So
feel
it's,
like those ones are like kind of like they're indicators of quality again. You know, like I'm like when I see
mm.
an AI thumbnail, I'm like I get like a little icky. You know, like I'm like
Yeah,
I know
because
I
they
know
also,
you
yeah.
made them. I know you have, but it's totally cool. I'm just like it's not it doesn't do it for me. You know.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
and I think you've seen the vast majority of them I've done myself, and especially most of the reviews, everything up until very recently. I've just tried to I've done a couple tests to see if I can outsource it to AI, and it hadn't really worked very well. So very recent, like the last 4 or 5, there's been no AI or anything like that.
Okay, let me send you my thumbnail for us, and then put it in A/B testing. If it fails miserably, I apologize, but
yeah. So what I'll do is I'm going to do one that I do without looking at yours. Yeah. I'm going to do one in AI, and we'll do yours, and we'll see what happens.
Send me the results though. Okay, that's the deal.
Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, cool.
This
I'm
has
actually
been
super fascinated to see.
Yeah. Well, wait, well, yeah, I am as well. So I hope yours crushes. Then I'm gonna hire you for all my thumbnails.
No, God, no! Don't put that on me. I have so much work to do anyway.
Yeah, I know, right? You're just designing a game and actually have a real job and YouTube channel and all that stuff.
It's a fucking nightmare some days, but anyway, I guess that was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
No, this is awesome. We're at 2 hours and 51 minutes on my recording. That is quality. That's the best indicator of quality, is how long these things go. I thought there was a tons of really good information. If you ever want to come back, once Sunlit Eulogy is up and running and there's a rule book I can read, I'd love to dive deep into the design with you. I won't even ask for payment. I won't even ask for a free copy. just send me the rule book. And if you have a TTS
I'll send
mod,
you the print to play, and then you have to.
I'm never going to print that out. Never, ever will I ever do that. I'll happily buy a copy when it comes out, or back it, but I'm not printing that thing out. You are on the same coast as mine. We're not going to dox you now, but I am in Seattle, so if we can meet anywhere, I'd love to play it as well.
I'm not afraid of being doxxed about the city, but I'm on the Canadian side, same coast, right? So there's not many options over there.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I think you might be the 3rd Canadian I've interviewed here. So congratulations.
I think the other big Canadian guy in the YouTube sphere is the Tabletop Turtle guy. I haven't spoken to him either, but I know he's kind of popping off as well. I would say he's kind of similar size as me.
Yeah, he's done very, very well. I didn't know he was in Canada. I think he's on the East Coast. I thought he was on the East Coast, but maybe East Coast of Canada.
Don't quote me on this. I've seen a couple of his videos. I think he makes some pretty interesting stuff, but I'm like, that would be my, I would say, closest neighbor in terms of style right now.
Yeah.
And size. Yeah.
Very cool, man. Thank you for being here. And anytime. You're welcome back.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll talk later. Okay.
Thank you. All right. Bye, man.